And we're live.
Yay!
Hello and welcome to another episode. And I am KP, your host, and my semi-host is joining me today, Laura Hope.
That's me. I'm like, you know, when you get stars on sitcoms who are like regular guests, which makes no sense. Yeah, I'm a regular guest.
Yeah, they just happen to appear every so often.
Yeah, or like how do you credit somebody as like a regular irregular, basically.
And if you'd watched Friends, then you would know there was that type of thing going on as well.
But here's a fun fact about me is that I've never really watched Friends.
Or you never learned to ride a bike, which is equally strange.
Yes, I did learn how to ride a bike. It just didn't stick. And now I don't know how to ride a bike.
That's probably why you didn't.
I know how to dog sled and stuff. I just don't know how to ride a bike.
And stuff. So my dad's currently calling me. He always has a habit of calling when I'm either, you know, in some precarious position in life.
In life or just physically. It's very consistent.
Podcast. It's crazy.
It's really very consistent.
He literally has a sixth sense for that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like 100% of the time he calls you. It's incredibly inconvenient.
And I'll wait for ages.
Yeah, because you'll call him and he won't answer, and then he'll wait to call you back until he can tell.
Because we basically play phone tag for a while, and then he'll call me back.
Yeah.
And then I'll call him back, but he never answers if I call him. I think he kind of has this thing in his head where it's like an old school mentality when it comes to phones. I think he still thinks everyone's sort of on minutes. So he's always like, well, I don't want him wasting his money calling me.
Yeah.
So he'll call me back and that's why he never answers when I call him.
That's funny. I'd forgotten about that and how you'd have to like send people an automated text to get them to call you and crazy, stuff. Yeah.
He's literally like still in 2003 mode, I think.
I don't think I even had a mobile phone in 2003.
I did.
I think maybe I did because I think I got one when I started like taking the subway to get to school.
Yeah, it makes
sense. But I didn't use it. I never sent a text until about 2007.
What?
Yeah, no.
You're way behind.
Why? Yeah, just didn't. Yeah.
Did you just refuse to? You're so much of a
I had like one friend who texted me, so I texted her back, but we just talked like
I think you're so much of a contrarian that you just wouldn't have sent a text when you really had to.
It just didn't occur to me like people weren't texting like at my school or whatever. Yeah, we like Facebooked each other.
That was a big thing I noticed from here, and when I stayed in America was the sort of texting. Initially, the texting aspect of it. Everyone didn't text when I was in America, and here everyone. I think we're so Scottish that we just hate speaking to people on the phone.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Would text each other here all the time. I think we were probably the ones sort of testing Messenger, I guess, at that point. You know, and now everyone does it.
Yeah, it's true. And yeah, because I never started texting until I moved to Ireland. And then it was something everybody was doing then. And I was like, well, I guess I have to learn how to text, I guess. Yeah.
And you learned so well.
Oh, thank you. And then I learned how to judge people based on their texts. And that's the most fun of all.
You think someone who was interested in literature would be their go-to, would be to text?
Well, I'd rather do it than phone.
Okay.
For sure.
Yeah. You really don't
I hate talking on the phone. I super hate talking on the phone. I really like Skype, which is funny because it's sort of like, I think there's an episode of Veep when she says talking to somebody on Skype is like being on trial in the future because you've got this like video thing. And I kind of agree with that. It's weird, but I like it a lot as well. Yeah. It's
funny how that's a thing now, like Skype. It's crazy. I mean, I think they probably showed it in sort of early sci-fi, but it wasn't really a thing. It was just that guy's talking to you on the TV type thing.
Yeah, it's like, well, you have to read as well. This is like the most hipster thing to say ever, but Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace, and he has this bit about video phones and how basically the levels of sort of collateral technology that video phones inspired based on people not wanting to have their faces ready to talk on the phone at any given moment. So they get like, it escalates to like people getting lifelike masks of themselves made to wear when they talk on the video phone and getting like dioramas printed and finally just basically getting lens caps and putting them over the video thing on the video phone so they're just phones. It's really funny. But yeah, I think like I started Skyping in probably like my 3rd or 4th year of uni. I remember I used to have to go to a payphone to speak to my parents when I first moved to Ireland. And then eventually we got like I forget what it was called, but it was like an internet calling thing, but it worked on phones. It was just cheaper.
Right. It was like a sort of SIM card, I guess, was it?
It wasn't it was like they had to dial a number and call me through that number. It was something. And then in my first year in like halls, I only got reception when I sat in this one really specific window in the flat. Like I couldn't be in my room. I had to be like in the hall.
That's insane.
It was really weird. And I had to sort of like jam myself up against the window. It was the only place we could get a connection. But it was really funny because I used to see like really weird things happening when I was speaking on the phone with them. Just like a guy I knew going back to his room but wearing only a duvet at like 4 p.m. It was good. There was a fox. I used to watch the fox run around.
It's such a strange thing as well. I kind of refused to do it for such a long time, Skype, because it's just, I really hated talking on the phone when I was younger. I'd like ordering Domino's pizza was like a task back in the day. We'd always just, me and my friends would look at each other as soon as we mentioned Domino's and be like, who's calling? I still don't like calling taxis. Like things like automated lines and like internet stuff is just, I love it honestly because it's so much easier. I think we've talked about this before, and for me, I think maybe it's some cave girl thing where I don't like not being able to pick up people's cues like physically, so that's probably why Skype doesn't bother me. I think most people feel it though, but some people are too sort of stupid to sort of
you just about messed up there, buddy.
To pick up on it. I think they just kind of work through it.
I
know people who just are so silly and retarded that they don't feel
you said it there. You stopped saying it before and then you went and said it there. That was good.
They don't feel pain when they go to the gym. You know, when they're working out, they lift heavy weights because they have no sort of concept of safety for their body because they can work through it because they're so I mean, I have a couple of friends like that. I don't want to name anyone.
Go on.
And they just go like full sort of R word.
Yeah, I'm a bit like that with sort of like minor pain with things from like I get the worst blisters
pains from minors.
They're just in my soul.
Which kind?
Not the one with an E on the end. I get existential dread from minors basically. It's like, oh my god, they're so little.
What about the ones that are down in deep dark caves though?
They're all right.
Yeah,
I can live with
Part Neanderthal.
Yeah,
we dig that.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I get like horrible blisters just because I don't know enough to stop doing stop walking or whatever, like adjust this, and I think like that's not that bad, and I'll get home and like my foot's basically falling off, like that kind of thing, and I just don't notice.
Your foot's mostly falling off all the time.
My feet are always basically, and that's the same thing. It's like because I ignore stuff.
I mean, Laura has the most wicked ingrown toenail.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a gross overshare. I get horrible ingrown toenails, and what I do is I ignore them for about a month longer than I should, and then I go in. And
it must be a painful thing as well.
It's very painful.
It can be debilitating, I guess.
Yeah.
I've never met anyone that had one. It's kind of strange.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's I have my dad to thank for them, apparently. He used to get them really badly, and I have like cousins who get them, and my podiatrist gets them, so he's empathetic. It's cool. Dad. Yeah, thanks, Dad. Exactly. Thanks, Dad.
That's weird that your podiatrist gets them. Is it like, oh, well, I get this thing, therefore I will become someone who fixes it?
I think maybe it's sort of like how if you're a psychiatrist, you're supposed to like go to analysis and stuff. It's like maybe he has empathy for the condition because maybe he just had one removed like spuriously just so he could like understand how it feels or whatever. Yeah.
But it's kind of strange though, because if you're a psychologist, you're not allowed to psychoanalyze yourself. So why would you then would he work on his own foot if he was like...
I think the danger with that stuff is always that you're going to pass out in the middle and like bleed to death or whatever. That's why self-surgery is discouraged.
Who was it? There was a famous sort of explorer, and I think he was left on an island by himself. Or he was one of these Arctic explorers, and he had appendicitis, and he had to operate on himself.
Oh, holy jeez!
Because he was a surgeon or something along.
Or somebody who knew where his appendix was, at least. Yeah.
So he had to operate without anesthetic on himself and take out.
And
his
that's
appendix.
So dangerous because if you pass out and you bleed to death, it's the same with the 127-hour guy. It's like even if you can withstand the pain, if you just pass out, you'll die. So you have to stay conscious.
You might bleed to death.
Yeah, exactly. Or just go into shock as well. And then plus infection and stuff for the explorer guy, if he's somewhere remote, that would be really, really hard to deal with.
I wish I could remember his name because he was seen as
that's really curious.
Sort of an old-timey badass. He did sort of surgery on himself. I think there was even other people there. They just couldn't perform it. And he was the one.
That at least would be good because you'd have somebody to give emergent, if I pass out, I don't know.
What could they do back then if he passed out?
Apply pressure to the wound. I think that's about it. Wait for him to unpass out. Yikes. Yeah. But I think some people do just have like the presence of mind to do. Because I was speaking with...
but it feels like some of these people are a bit more sort of... They don't think as much, and I think they can get through that pain. It's kind of hard to say that, but I have met people that are not like great thinkers.
Yeah. But I also, like, there are some people who can think their way out of it, and there are other people who are just kind of gristleheads and they don't really compute it.
With those people that I know, they, especially when it comes to pain and working out, they can just go through it. And they just don't. Some people sort of see them as not having any sort of respect for their body in a sense.
Because I think there's maybe there's maybe a couple different flavors of that, but that achieve the same results. And one of them's maybe being just not in tune with your body at all. But there's also the sort of, I don't know if it's true or not, I think we've even discussed it before, but the idea with like ultra endurance athletes that at the point at which you feel like you're going to actually drop dead from exertion and exhaustion and all that you actually are about 50% of the way to getting to the point where you would drop dead. So it's sort of like your body has a over enthusiastic kind of governor for... Well,
your body also has like you're saying, it has a system inbuilt so you don't go over a certain line, but that's not your sort of your threshold. I think your body can do much more than you.
Exactly.
I'm not talking about like super grannies throwing babies over there.
No, because that's all the weird kind of adrenaline stuff, and I think it's exaggerated sometimes.
Your body
as well.
actually does have like when you're lifting things, you have pain receptors that obviously tell your brain that you're sort of reaching your limit, but your body can physically do more. It's just to stop you from injuring yourself. And I think maybe these people sort of either don't experience it the same way, or they can sort of bypass it, I guess, somehow, or they're just
or just like don't register it, silly. Or because I think there would be a level where you're like, oh, I understand that this is the feeling I'm feeling, but I understand where it's coming from, and therefore I can work through it.
Therefore I am.
Skull.
Thanks, Skull.
Thanks.
we didn't cheers.
Thanks, Descartes. Cheers. And then there's maybe other people who just don't receive the message, and so they're not hindered by it, or they don't appreciate it or compute it or whatever. And again, those two people might get the same result as just coming from a different place. Maybe.
I think there's some people in the ultramarathon circles that are like that, but there are people genuinely who can just do it physically. You know? Like I think Cameron Haynes, is it the guy that does the ultramarathons?
Yeah.
He's just completely in control of his body. He might necessarily not be strong enough and fit enough to do it without any terrible effects on his body, but he's so strong-willed that he can just get through it. Yeah,
and you can basically just run like a dog. And well, because it's amazing also hearing the contrast though between him speaking and Courtney, what's her name?
I'm not sure. It's the girl that came first.
Was it by a long shot. Dowalter, something like that.
How many miles was it? Like 150?
Oh God, it was higher than I can count. So more than 4. More than 4 miles. But I think like he's sort of rendered it into a science, and she's just like, yep, just like running. Yeah,
she can do it.
Yeah,
and her body just allows her to do it.
Yeah,
whereas he, like you say, has sort of etched his way out through just physical endurance and mental endurance.
And I love hearing her interviewed because all the sort of the technical boys want to hear what it is she's doing, and she's like, I just run and I eat nachos and drink beer basically, and it's great. Like she sounds completely insane, but in a really nice way. She
doesn't seem to notice what's going on around her, I guess. She just is focused on what she loves doing.
And she like talks about like hallucinating and stuff but that like you hallucinate if you just stay awake too long as well, so I don't think that's because she's a nutcase or
if you take a good dose of mushrooms.
I suppose so. You mean like portobello mushrooms or like maybe some shiitake mushrooms? Yeah.
Not the magic kind.
No, those are not real.
To sort of tie this in, I possibly might be having on a former guest, Robert Garrett, who is doing a 50-mile marathon tomorrow.
That's very cool.
Would you call it a marathon?
It's because marathon's like a specific. Yeah. So you'd say like a marathon plus.
But there is sort of different individual names for them, but I guess you'd end up running out. So maybe I'll call it a super marathon.
Super marathon. It's like how they have all the different sizes of wine bottles and like this one's a Methuselah and this one's
Well, it's in between ultra and normal marathon, so it's a super marathon.
Super marathon, I like it. Yeah, that's good.
Well, he is doing one in Edinburgh, Scotland tomorrow, and I guess
if he survives, he's gonna.
He's so crazy that if he survives this, he wants to come on the podcast after to talk about his experience.
I like that he would think that was a thing he could do, because I'd be like, nope, I'm done for the day.
But if anyone can do it, it's him.
Yeah.
He has that mentality where
Sweet.
He's not the sort of slightly more non-thinker type that I was talking about, but he has that extra gear where he doesn't care. He can just mentally go through it, you know. And but he's having some knee trouble leading up to this.
Knee bother?
Terrible.
That's a Scottish accent joke for anyone out there.
That was terrible. And so he's hopefully coming on tomorrow.
Sweet.
And it should be a good podcast if he's not in too much pain and how long he can stand, if he doesn't have to go for a black tar piss in between.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's all these experiences.
Should get like some sort of IV bag ready for him or something.
Just IV.
One of those space blankets. Yeah.
With old Iron Brew in the IV.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Because
you just got to get the bubbles out first. I think that's crucial. No, just right in there.
Scots, they'll swallow.
Don't mind having carbonated blood.
They'll swallow that shit whole. Probably Scots do have carbonated blood.
Maybe. I think if you eat enough Iron Brew, I can't even imagine it's a drink, to be honest. You got to eat it.
I like how you said
Iron Brew.
If you eat enough of it.
If you eat enough Iron Brew. Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully he'll be coming on tomorrow. It'll be cool to sort of speak to him.
Would look forward to hearing that.
Because it's always good having Robert on. So just to hear his experience with doing it. And I know he's been struggling the last couple of weeks, started getting his training in, but I think his mindset is just, I'm going to do it regardless.
Yeah. So, well, it's good you don't want to talk yourself out of something, because you never know. I can't speak for him, but you never know how much of it's actually just coming from your brain and how much of it's coming from your body. And it's good to
and we know
power
that,
through.
You know, the body can do exceptional things. And if you just turn up and just follow along, you could end up surprising yourself. Yeah.
Well, and that's the different circumstances, but I always would say to people I was on courses with, like, let's say in the MFA, if somebody was struggling to get into the studio because they weren't.
The MFA was the
Master of Fine Arts.
Okay.
At
just
Duncan of Jordanstone. Yeah.
People who don't.
That people who were struggling to get into the studio, because it sort of divided up into people who were really used to having a studio practice and people who weren't.
Yeah.
And anyone who was sort of like, I'm not sure what I'm working on, so I don't think I'll come to the studio today. And it's like, well, you're not going to do anything by accident if you don't come to the studio. So come, sit on your arse, have a cup of tea, whatever. Maybe you'll do something, maybe not, but you certainly won't if you don't come in. So just start there.
It is definitely all in the mind. I mean, that's something that even as I'm turning, 32 this year later on.
Ew!
In November, I've still learned this year, you know, even though I love training, but a lot of the time, unless I had something to train for, I would usually sort of pull out because of I'd end up talking myself out of it. Yeah. And I think the way you get around that is one, set sort of small goals. Yes. Within your training, what you're doing, like just even, you know, you want to look better, you want to do more reps, or you want to go do like a half marathon or something like that, whatever it is, just set like mini goals. And and that's something that I found has helped. And two, just going, like, even if you feel like doing it, just even leaving, putting your shorts on and just leaving the house. Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing. It's just as good. Because you're not going to not do it when you get there.
Yeah, and you just have to do it sort of like one bite at a time. Yeah, it's like I've noticed, I think we talked a bit maybe last time about procrastinating in terms of stuff that gives you anxiety. Yeah. But I've also noticed even with stuff that I want to do, I'll procrastinate because I think it's like
You mean like getting to bed at night?
Oh, that's just what I need a minute. A minute.
Let's unpack this.
But just in terms of like, say like writing essays or like editing, anything like that, I really enjoy doing. But it's sort of like once you start, you're committed to the idea that you might also fail. But if you don't start, you can't fail. Yeah. So you kind of talk yourself into this weird thing where you're like, I really want this to go well. It might not. I better not start it, actually, even though that's totally stupid, because the more you do that, the more you're decreasing your chances of it going well.
And you can also say to yourself, well, I could do it if I wanted to. Like, you leave that question there. If I could do it and I could succeed, but if you do it and you fail, that's scary, you know. Because it is, yeah. You've done it and you've failed. But failing's like that's brilliant for anyone, you know.
Yeah.
The more people fail, the more experience they have.
It's true. Because that's, to me,
if you don't fail all your life, you're going to have a very short bandwidth in terms of experience.
I guess it's true.
And achievements. Like, you have to fail.
Whenever you get any of those sort of like quizzes where it's like, what's your biggest fear? If any of the options are failure, I'm always like, I don't even have to think about it. It's like, yes, that's my biggest fear always.
And that's why people that don't fail, just for whatever reason, luck of the draw, that's the way their life has went. They've just never failed, and that's just the way the chips have fallen when they've come out. But these people generally have no personality, and they're obsessed with this one thing, and that's just like a tiny 1% of people that can manage this. And
odds are you've probably been given a lot if you've never had any sort of adversity of that type. Like, it's certainly something I work to avoid, but
that's what you're saying is adversity. You know, like you're saying, you need adversity and you need to fail.
Yeah, that's true. But it's hard to accept in the moment. I guess it's either you start, you know, rationalizing, and then it's usually easy to see nothing, knock on wood, but nothing is like an unremitting, like full on failure. There's always things to be seen sort of that contribute to things that you can learn from. But yeah, it's hard to accept. I don't know. It's Yeah.
Have you ever experienced what's the sort of greatest, what you think is your failure in your life that you learned from, obviously?
I guess the first time I tried to apply to a master's in fine art, I didn't get in. I only applied to one school. I think I already knew I was not going to get in. I hadn't done a fine art undergrad.
Why did you only apply to one school?
Because I think I already knew that I wasn't probably up to it. And also and this is a sign that I wasn't up to it, the work to putting together an application for one school was too much work, basically, because I was studying and working as well. And I got to an interview, and honestly, like, if I look back at the portfolio I would have put together, I wouldn't have let me in either. But I was by no means ready to do that. Like, I basically had, 6 months of studying art at that point, because I hadn't done a fine art undergrad. I had no experience of studying fine art. I had gone to an independent art school to do a portfolio course, or like a foundation course, basically. And I knew I wanted to continue studying art, but the way the visa system works in the UK is you can't repeat like a level. So I couldn't have done another undergrad. I couldn't get a visa to do that. You have to like escalate. So I could only do a master's course. So it was like, if I want to continue studying, then I have to do a master's course.
That's crazy.
And what I just needed when this turned out to be the case is to take another year, get more sort of a study of contemporary art and like context, and learn about other artists.
Get more art buff.
Yeah, exactly. And it just took another year and it was fun. But at the time, it didn't really bother me because it was what should have happened. But at the same time, it was the most I've ever, like, that was the first time I've kind of been like rejected, I guess. And it's hard not to take it personally.
Little Miss Goody Two Shoes getting her first rejection.
Well, I mean, like, I'd gotten into all the universities I wanted to as like going into my undergrad. Like, I hadn't done well in everything. Like, I was miserable in math and sciences, but that wasn't what I wanted to do, so it didn't matter to me. Whereas that was being told I wasn't good enough to do something I wanted to do. And at the time I was like, well, yeah, I'm not yet. I will be. It's fine. But it was the first time I've had like a piece of paper that was like, sorry, you're not good enough.
Yeah, because it's on paper.
Yeah. Well, it was an email, but it's still shitty.
It's
e-paper. Yeah.
At least they were green.
Yeah. But yeah, and it was, it wasn't a bad experience. It was just, that was the first time I was like, well, I've confirmably failed to do this. Yeah.
I think the first time I sort of experienced that, not failure, but sort of feeling of like, oh shit, like life's not how I think it's going to be. And it was probably a young age. I sort of had this awakening.
Yeah.
And I came from a small primary school in Scotland. Yeah. And I went to like a really, really large high school. Right. And it was basically the main high school for all these satellite towns in the larger town. So I think there was something close to 2,000 people at this. Jeebus. And I remember I was always brilliant at sports in primary school. Yeah. And when I went to high school and just sort of getting beat in sports, and I was like, this sucks. This is really bad. Like, I thought I was going to do extremely well. Like up until that point, it was music and sports, and I thought this is like one part of my life joined with music that would be easy to me.
Right.
And then I'm getting challenged and sort of like I'm maybe third or fourth in the class, and it was a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, I get that as well, because there's always those big fish in a small pond to small fish in a big pond moments that are hard. Like I remember that when I went to high school as well, there were a few things that were like, oh wow, I've got a lot more people to kind of compete with, basically. And
I remember, I think it stuck with me because we were away to do the 200 meters, and it was first year, and the teacher was like, oh, so are you a sprinter or a long distance? And I'm like,
I don't know.
Thinking I was cool as hell. I was like, I'm a fucking sprinter. I didn't say fucking, obviously.
No, because you would have gotten your mouth washed out with soap, young man.
I could have. It was Blair. I could have said
anything.
And I remember being like, I'm gonna win this.
I'm gonna Usain Bolt this
and
shit.
I'm gonna, in front of everyone, I'm gonna be like the guy, from this small primary school who's like amazing at running. And I remember just out the gate, I was like,
shit.
I think 3 people went by me, and I was just like, fuck, this sucks.
Yeah.
This is not how it's supposed to go. But I think that helped me learn that obviously you have to work.
Yeah.
There's only a small percentage of people that are extremely talented enough to sort of just do it off the bat.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to have to be one of these people that works hard at it.
Yeah. And it's hard to accept that you're not, like, it's hard to go from being the best at something to not.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you get some perspective and you realize that there are people out there who are kind of awesome freaks, and those are the people who are really good without trying, and they try as well. Is the thing. If you're going to get anywhere with it, you're also trying really, really hard. I'm just thinking of like say high level athletes and the amount of support that they get, and that's somebody who's obviously naturally like a 100th percentile total freak of nature, and they're getting tons of support and working really hard on doing only that thing. So it's funny to come and basically be a kid and expect the same results, but you don't have the perspective. I think it's kind of the same thing as girls get into with body image stuff. It's like, this is such a sort of retreaded thing, but you see images in the media and people seem to be perfect, and you don't realize that people don't just end up that way, that it's a lot of work, and that's their job. Like, it's their job to look that way.
Can't just eat pasta every night and do a bit of cross-country running at the
weekend.
Yes,
you can.
And expect to look like whoever stick figure was around at that point. Who was it? Okay, I don't know.
I don't know.
Who was the model when you were younger?
I'm not really sure.
Okay.
I got like quite into fashion in my last couple of years of high school, but then I don't really know what was like happening in the popular culture.
You got into fashion?
Yeah, I wanted to do costume design originally.
Oh, really?
I was like really into, but
Sweet.
I realized it was going to be a lot of working for other people, and maybe eventually ever one day you get to do any of your own stuff. But
and you hate people, so that would be a nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm bossy and overbearing. It just wouldn't work well, you know.
Don't know what you're talking about.
I remember that sort of despair of like, there's nothing really to be done about this. But no, I got quite into like, I could flip through like a sort of like editorial fashion magazine, and I'd know like who all the models were and who all the designers were and stuff for a couple of years. Probably totally lost it now to know.
That's such a strange world, is the fashion model.
Oh God,
model world. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's really, I think that's it, as well as I learned enough as I got older to understand the kind of context of it and how gross it is, from everything from the way models are treated to the way like textile workers are treated. It's a repugnant industry. It's really, really upsetting. There's almost no bright lights there. There are a few. There are some amazing people who are making ethical stuff, but
I saw like a small mini documentary on YouTube, and it was basically about this tiny little town in the most southern part of Brazil, and essentially I think it had a large population of German and like Dutch mixture in there.
Yeah.
So this was the sort of epicenter for a lot of models that came out of here.
Yeah.
And I think
I've heard that before, that they send people to scout in places like that, because
so
it's like a lot of mixed people, and they make pretty people basically.
So they're essentially just hanging outside the high school. Like the teachers allow these scouts to go in and just have a look at them. But they're only like 13, 14.
Yeah. Because that's when you get recruited. Like you're over the hill
and it's
when
crazy.
you're like 17.
But this is so silly though, because we know how much we change from in those sort of middle years, you know, like from 14 all the way up until 20, like your body just drastically changes.
Yeah.
And imagine sort of being promised that you're going to be this fashion model and then your body just does something unexpected and then you're out. You know, like that's just the way it is.
And I've read a few sort of depressing stories as well about like girls who are scouted and get to a certain level and then their bodies are changing and stuff, and so this girl is getting too big, and so her like agency or whatever encourages her to starve herself, and they eventually get to the point and they realize basically her skeleton's too big and there's nothing they can do about it. And it's awful. Like it's not just what that does to your sort of self-esteem and stuff like that, but it's also that you'd be told you're this one thing and then you're told, actually, never mind, you were born wrong, you're out. Like that's awful.
And you're also sort of your whole family's throwing their chips on you, you know, and that's you're sort of they're banking on you to make it, you know, because they're coming from maybe a small farm
or you get
town
these girls
or something like that,
from like Moldova and stuff like that, and
they're just sort of, their whole family's expecting them to make it, and then like you said, like their body does something unexpected and they just get thrown to the side, like,
or it's psychologically too, because they're like put in super weird situations, like not only on the job but in terms of their like so-called home life. Like they're put in tiny flats with tons of girls and they have no supervision, no contact with people, they don't really have any money. It's crazy. Like you'd crack. It's like barely above being sex trafficked, except if you make it big, you can be hilariously wealthy. So there's like an amazing possible goal there, but God, I don't know.
I wonder what the sort of the difference in pay maybe from male to female is in the fashion industry and models.
That's a good question, actually, because the most famous models do tend to be women.
And is there a sort of, I mean,
because there are certainly like high level male models, but you don't get the famous faces the way you do so much with women. Like you don't get like the Giselles and the Kate Mosses, and
it's hard to have a sort of prepubescent body when you're a male, I guess.
Yeah, it's a really weird body type. I think there's like maybe the benefit of, if you have that body type, you don't have to work as hard on maintaining it as you get older for men compared to women.
But that V shape and whatever, you know, when you start working out or doing anything, you can just ruin it, I guess, instantly.
Yeah.
So you can probably bank on women to maybe stay the way they are for a certain period of time, I guess. Yeah.
And I think like male models as well are as subject to sort of changing fashions in terms of body types. Like they always, the sort of kind of cliched version of it is like you had the like sort of power models in the 80s who were like Amazons, and then you had like the waifs in the 90s with Kate Moss and stuff, whereas the men, I guess that like those fluctuations probably happen as well.
I wonder how they're tied into each other, like the male and female fashion trends and so in terms of the models. So like I wonder if they're related to each other, or is it just external factors that shape them individually, I guess.
I think they're probably, I think things like colors and stuff probably kind of come from the same place. And it depends, like some designers will only design for one or the other, or only design unisex.
What was crazy about this documentary was they were talking about how this small town sort of puts a lot of effort into promoting young people to become models, but the shift in the sort of trend in models now has gone towards sort of ethnic sort of groups. Yeah. So this place is kind of going to fall to the wayside in terms of producing models. Yeah, which is crazy.
And that's your like main export.
I know, but if you're such a small town in Brazil somewhere and that's your main sort of concern, it's going to take a huge hit.
That's interesting. Yeah, because you do have these sort of trends. And I think there's a lot more like interest in sort of alternative models and stuff now. Like I think back in the day, if you had tattoos, you were out. And now they have whole agencies that are sort of like devoted to so-called alternative people.
What is an alternative model?
Well, like just like girls with short hair, basically. They do have like some like pretty prominent trans models now. Okay. There's one person who I'm not sure how they were identifying now. They were a dude, I don't know now. And I can't remember their name either, so this is going to be unhelpful. But they were modeling alternately as a man and as a woman, which actually, and they're a really good model as well. It was really cool. And it's like I think a lot of interesting stuff in fashion comes from ambiguity. Yeah. So I think that was really brilliant. And you do have agencies that are supposedly like more people of color and more people with tattoos and piercings and girls with short hair and sort of non-conforming, but they do still generally tend to be conforming to like the same body type, for instance, and even plus size models. Or not plus size models. It's ridiculous.
I mean, I've never had sort of any second thoughts about my body when I was growing up, you know, because I'm a guy, obviously. And not that can't happen when you're grown up, when you're 17, but it was never something that affected me in any way. I mean, I always seen, well, I could probably change it through sports or whatever if I was unhappy. But I guess being a young girl, it must be terrible just growing up in school, surrounded by people trying to outdo each other, you know.
It was that, like, there was certainly like an atmosphere in my high school. And I think it's weird because, like, when you're basically a kid, when you're like a preteen, like the first time you really start to feel like strangers notice you, it's like in a sexual way, but you still don't even know who you are in your body or what it's up to or anything. Like, you're not at all aware of that stuff before it starts happening to you. So it's like everything happens in the wrong order. Like, you're sort of being objectified before you even have square one down. You have so little control over or understanding of your own body at the time when you're experiencing the most pressure externally and internally to like look a certain way. And you have the least information. Again, all the stuff in media where, you know, I can look at, you know, photos of people now and see where people have got work done, but you can't do that when you're like 13. You don't know what's up. So it's just very people, and you don't know anything about nutrition or anything.
Do you think it's becoming more prominent? Like, do you think this sort of thing existed with girls maybe 100 years ago? Yeah,
I think, again, it would be different body types and stuff. That would be, like, there are, like, documented historic anorexics and stuff like that.
But teenagers wasn't a real thing.
Yeah, they didn't really have teenagers. Yeah, it's true. I think it would be, I don't know what it was like to be a teenager before they had teenagers, because presumably you were still insane. Presumably you're still hormonal and bonkers. But that wasn't, like, a thing that...
When did it come around, teenagers? Is it the 50s?
I think basically the 50s, there was like a pop cultural, and I think it was basically probably pretty much thanks, I'm sure it's really complicated like sociologically, but capitalism, they figured out there was a whole other demographic they could sell shit to.
Or maybe it is a real demographic though.
I think it is. Like, I think teenagers are super different. I mean, they didn't even really have an idea about kids until they got into the modern era. You know, you see those old portraits from like the 1700s and the kids just look like little grown-ups because that's basically what they thought kids were. They were like really short grown-ups.
Signed down the mine shaft. You're gonna get a picture taken the same way as the adults.
Yeah, but even just like the old paintings of them in like ruffs and stuff. And I mean, you had like 7-year-old kings and all sorts of mad stuff. But yeah, they didn't have an idea of like child labor not being cool. They could fit in small spaces. It was brilliant. But even pre-industrial, like, just they didn't have kids yet. They had babies and then grown-ups.
I wonder how they were treated sort of in the sort of hunter-gatherer type times. Obviously, you have this. Yeah. Maybe that's something that's missing from society, is a sort of coming-of-age ceremony. Maybe even that's why the Jewish sort of culture has it right, I guess, because you have this...
Yeah, like the bar mitzvah and the bat mitzvah.
You have a coming of age. And a lot of people are sort of stuck in this no man's land of being a child and being an adult. And
I've heard that sort of proposed a bit, that you don't... And because I think part of usually coming of age, there's some sort of ordeal that you undertake, and maybe you learn something about who you are or what you can do, or at least it's a sort of symbolic affirmation. It is good
because recently sort of extended the age of being young or a teenager. Was it to 25? I think was.
Yeah, which kind of makes sense to me because your brain's still all squishy until you're like 25.
Physically, you're still changing.
Yeah.
But as the idea as a person, is it wise to do that? You know, are we just going to have more people who are just sort of lost?
Yeah, because there's this kind of what's it called? Arrested Development thing that it's like, oh, okay, I'm still in the clear. Because I remember like going through birthdays as I got older and being like, oh God, this is a get your shit together birthday. Like, this isn't fun anymore.
Do you think when you got to your 40th maybe or something?
Oh, get in the sea.
Get in the sea.
Yeah. Go away. But I do, like, by the time pretty much any birthday after turning 21, you're like, well, this is all pointless now. So I guess I better get my shit together.
I think 21 was the one, but it was like, oh God, this is it. It's over.
Whereas now if I hear like a news item or something about someone being 21, I'm like, oh, a baby. Or like, well, Hugh, who was on our podcast recently, your podcast. Sorry.
Yes.
He was mine. I brought him.
Freudian slip.
I brought Hugh, so I contributed. He was my coworker. And when I started working with Hugh, he was 21. He's 22 now. Yeah. He just had a birthday. Happy birthday,
Happy birthday, Hugh. I'm sure he's listening with bated ears.
No, because he's not speaking to you because he didn't come to his birthday party.
I refused to go to anybody's birthday party. Even yours.
Hey, you like threw mine.
Did I?
Well, we just did stuff because I don't
yeah.
actually like birthday parties.
Yeah.
So we just hung out. For 2 birthdays now. Crazy.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, he was 21. Right? And I'm like, I've never even met a 21-year-old since I stopped being one. Like, what are they like?
He's a bit sort of deceiving in terms of he's had a lot more experience than most 21-year-olds. Mm-hmm. And you can forget that he's still young. Like you were saying when you speak to him, and there's sort of there's pop culture and stuff that you talk to him about, and he has no clue about.
Yeah, because there's certain things he knows, and like, you know, stuff from like my parents' generation that we can talk about, and I guess I don't have any more right to know it than he does, basically. And he's all over it, and then I'll mention something else, and he doesn't know what it is, and I'm just like, how do you not know what that is? Like what? But there's other stuff that he knows more about than I do. So
like what?
Well, he can speak like a billion languages for one thing.
I thought you were going to say he speaks like Donald Duck.
Oh, he can probably do that. I don't know.
Laura has
fun
a fascination
facts.
with people who can do the Donald Duck
To
voice.
me, the highest form of humor is actually people just doing the Donald Duck voice, especially angry Donald Duck.
Yeah.
That's like my...
Isn't all his
It just
voices?
Paralyzes me. It makes me pee myself. It's so funny.
I just don't get it.
Yeah, I just really, really funny. It just kills me.
You have these like weird sort of little quirks that I would never expect you to have. Mm-hmm. Obviously...
Such as?
Hates having your feet tickled, like to the point where you would probably
I've like kind of hurt you a couple times because you did that.
You could never kind of hurt me.
I mean, you've been very offended a couple times.
She left me. That kind of hurt me. No, I'm joking.
And I don't really like having my forehead touched very much either.
Yes, but it is like a sort of 5 head.
Oh, you're a fine one to talk. Paranorman.
You look like an ant.
What else?
Tell
me how weird I am.
You don't like people.
Yes. I like some people.
You can't count.
I like,
but
no, I
you
can't
can
count.
do like extremely intelligent things on the other hand, but are almost basically numeric.
I have dyscalculia.
Yes, okay.
Which is apparently actually a thing because I can't read like clock faces either, like non-digital clocks. I can't read them.
I was gonna say, you can't read the digital clock.
I can read a digital clock, but I cannot really read which apparently is a symptom of dyscalculia, which is an actual thing. Yeah.
I know someone that can't read digital either.
Really?
When it gets to the sort of 21, 22s, they're like...
Oh. See, I used to be confused about that because they don't do 24-hour time unless you're in the military, basically, in North America.
Anywhere.
Yeah. No, it's like in North America. It's not a thing. I've never seen 24-hour time. No, it's not.
Really?
Yeah. Unless you're like kind of military. That's the only time they use it. I'd never seen it until I went to Ireland.
I don't believe you.
I'd heard of it in like 24 and they're like, 200 hours and stuff like that.
Well, that's kind of point of the show though.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't just have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Wait, do you mean 6 a.m. or 6 p.m.? Yeah, that would be a very different show. That would be actually a pretty good spoof. It would just be very subtly different, but it would be 24.
Just 12.
But it would be 12.
Yeah. Times 2. 12 times 2.
I like this. It's good. Yeah, sweet.
I've never seen it.
I watched the whole first season obsessively and then I didn't watch any more of it.
It has Kiefer Sutherland.
Yes. And it was good. Like I watched it.
How many seasons are there?
I don't know. I don't know now. They did it again with like somebody else in it and the whole thing now. I don't know. They did a bunch. The first one was good.
Did you watch Prison Break?
No.
That was one I couldn't get into either. They're bringing it back supposedly.
Yeah, I just didn't. I think people were into it and I was out. Yeah. What was I watching? I was like only sci-fi in high school basically. Yeah. So
yes,
sci-fi
I can see
only,
that.
Space Channel all the way.
I can see that from your get up.
Because I'm an alien.
You're part wherever Spock's from. Vulcan, that's it.
Yeah.
You're part Vulcan.
My parents used to call me Miss Spock when I was little.
I like how they just assume your gender as well. That's
I
crazy.
know, right? Come on, guys.
Canadians as well. You would think they would have all sorts of pronouns for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like it. A thing called it.
I do love when people call their babies it. Because it's like, I don't think they're leaving room for their gender. I think they just can't be ours.
I say it as well when I'm talking about someone else's baby.
I guess if I...
Because they're not really a thing yet. Come on. Unless they're like, until they get to the bratty ages of like 3 to 5. Up until that point, it's an it.
I don't talk to people about their babies. I just talk to the babies in front of the grown-ups to get information. I'm like, so how are we doing?
Well, you shake the baby.
No,
who are you?
Give me
Where did you
information.
come from? Who sent you?
It would be a shame if a piano were to fall on your mommy. Like,
who sent you?
Yeah. No, I just sort of like, how are we doing? And then the parents talk. It's cool.
Oh, so they're like, oh, I'm doing really well.
They don't talk for the baby unless they're incredibly annoying, which isn't
Play
outside.
the same song.
I like that when I have a cousin who, when their first kid was born, and I was like, how are we doing? And he's like, well, we're okay. We're still unemployed.
Do you know anyone that talks about themselves in the third person, which is very frustrating? Said he.
No.
Okay.
I do not.
I've had, like, obviously some narcissistic type people that have done it, but they generally talk about themselves in the third person.
In the third person?
Yes.
Okay.
The bird person.
The bird person. Yeah, I guess like the Julius Caesar approach.
Yeah.
Like.
But they think it makes them sound like
render the salad
epic.
onto Caesar. Yeah. If, honestly, if I knew anyone who did that, I'd probably give them a shake because that would be really annoying.
Babies do it a lot, so you should shake them.
Don't shake babies. They're soft.
I had a friend who had his own sort of it wasn't a band because it was just him. He was like a DJ.
Yeah.
And his
like a DJ.
Well,
DJs are barely like a DJ.
He was like Aphex Twin more. You know, he was proper like sort of legit on the decks doing like sort of like tiny samples and
he just said legit on the decks. That's cute. I like it. You need a t-shirt that says that. Anyway. Legit on the decks, yo. Anyway,
legit on the decks. And
the Richards,
he called himself Baby Shaker. That was his. And I think
that's actually pretty funny.
I think it was around the time when, do you remember there was a woman was she in Ireland and she was American and she shook the baby who she was looking after?
No.
Louise Woodward.
I'm allergic to news about bad things happening to babies. I can't, babies and animals, I can't do it.
But essentially it was a huge sort of televised court case. Ooh. It was kind of almost paralleled the OJ one.
Really?
Obviously not numbers, but it was still a big thing.
I either wasn't here at the right time or I've completely blocked it out of my mind, which is equally possible because I really can't handle bad baby news.
Let's see, woman who shook her baby to death.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that was the mum of the. Okay, seems to be a lot of this.
Oh god.
It's hard. Woman, I think it was it auntie? She was an au pair. Au pair. Shook baby. Louise Woodward. That was it. So she was a 19-year-old British au pair, and she was convicted in 1997 of involuntary manslaughter of an 8-month-old Matthew Epin while he was in care in his home in Newton, Massachusetts. Yikes. So she was British in America.
In America. Okay. Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, so the trial was huge.
Yeah, I was like very young in 1997. So
I wondered why they sort of, it was so big. Maybe it was the first case that was sort of in the headlines that got made famous. Because I think the ones before that were mostly like the 70s where it wouldn't be as a big a deal, I guess.
Oh, I don't know.
So I think this was the first time it came along when sort of mass media is around.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that'd be it. It's just a sort of media
really
juggernaut. Yeah.
Up, so.
And it could depend on, media really likes when, say, people who are supposed to be bad guys seem either really good or really bad. Like when you get like people who look a certain way or talk a certain way, the media tends to snowball.
Definitely.
Like what's her name? The Italian murder.
Oh yeah, the woman who killed her boyfriend supposedly in Italy. Is that the one you're talking about?
They killed a girl.
No, I'm talking about the one she was American.
Yeah.
And she stayed in Italy.
Yeah. And they killed a girl, though. It wasn't.
Is that? Oh, was it? Yeah.
Yeah. Or they were supposed to have. I don't know. But
That
she's
is a
like.
crazy story.
She's like. Oh, what was her name?
But there's a documentary on Netflix.
Yeah.
Amanda
Knox. Yeah. And I think so much of that was to do with sort of how she looked and how she presented herself. And
she seems like she's quite manipulative.
Yeah. And the thing is, you can be totally manipulative and still not be a murderer.
Exactly.
But the media, and it was, a lot of different things about that. But
I don't know if you listened to the second last podcast, not the last one, but the one before it with Laurie.
I've started it, but I haven't finished it yet.
She basically goes into sort of her experiences in Nepal with, young girls. At
I
places.
haven't got there yet. Yeah.
Just kind of leading on from the sort of people doing that sort of things to young kids is crazy. And she's obviously had first-hand experience of the repercussions of that, and it's cool just to listen to anyway. Well,
I'll definitely.
Obviously not cool because it's terrible, but I just mean like to hear it from someone who is one-on-one sort of seeing that thing. It's crazy.
And I'm very without having heard that part of the podcast and having only met her briefly, but impressed by someone having the kind of emotional fortitude to take on that kind of misery when you don't have to, basically. I don't know how she does it, to be honest.
To her, she does that, and she raised money for this little girl, but she's had some surgery. I saw on her Facebook
they
raised the money, but she's supposedly had some brain injuries because of this, so
baby girl,
they're gonna have to get her some really good treatment.
That's so sad.
I know.
It's it'd be a tragedy anywhere, but especially being sort of in a position where it's harder to get help. And anyway.
So it's kind of sort of bypassed me, all this stuff that's been going on recently, but have you been reading or watching anything to do with this lady that's accusing Donald Trump of sleeping with her?
You mean Stormy Daniels? Yeah.
That name itself is
I know,
brilliant.
that's a good sign, right? I think it's a great name, actually. I think that's relatively super classy and quite nice.
I would always just assume that was a male porn star's name.
Really?
Stormy Daniels.
Yeah. Stormy's one you hear, though. Stormy's like a stripper name. I assume it's not her Christian name.
That name when I'm stripping.
When you're stripping. I've just seen a little bit. I guess the whole affair thing, I honestly...
Huh?
What?
Do you mean legit affair or the whole thing? Because he would have had to have had an affair.
Yeah,
okay. I thought you meant just the whole thing as a.
Oh, I see the affair part of it, where he had extramarital hanky panky or not.
Maybe
I don't really care, honestly, but it's the financial side of it that's a problem in terms of where money came from to pay her off during his campaign. So that's the thing that could really get him in trouble, as far as I understand.
I think this might be the thing to derail him.
It might be, which would be brilliant because it's basically as sordid a takedown as his presidency was, in terms of it sort of is fitting, I guess.
I heard someone talk about this. I must have heard this on another podcast, and they were saying that she got threatened before he came into sort of
she's
president.
Meant to have had her
Kids
like
sort of
which I don't like. There's not gonna be any way they can prove that, so I don't know if it's true or not.
But that's why she's saying she wanted to come forward, obviously, because they threatened her child.
And if they just left her well enough alone, maybe it never would have come out. I don't know if that did happen though. It's hard to know.
Did you see today? I think it was today. He said, she's not my type. That's why he didn't do it. He's
such a grandpa, honestly. Like, none of my grandpas, but like a terrible, like he's just like completely missed the point.
And even if I did, it wouldn't be her because, you know, she's not my type.
Exactly. And it's, oh my God. It's funny because it's like him trying to brush it off and seem nonchalant about it, but it's like indicative of everything that's wrong with him as well. Like, oh, yeah.
But yeah, this is, I don't know. I don't know where it's going to go. I think it's definitely going to, I don't know, like what can happen from it? Do you know?
Well, it just comes down to basically if they deem that money was used inappropriately that came from him when he was campaigning.
Okay.
I don't know where it has to have come from, whether it has to be money that was donated to him or not. I'm not really sure the finer points of that, but that's basically what it will come down to, is if they can figure out he did something illegal with money,
and if they don't,
in terms of buying her silence,
and if they want to go for it, he can't necessarily prove that it wasn't campaign money that did pay for it. So they can easily sort of figure out how to sort of prosecute him, I guess. Yeah.
And right now it's meant to have been Trump's lawyer that paid her, and they're not, I don't know if this is like totally accurate or up to the minute, but they weren't saying whether Trump had paid him back or not, which I imagine he probably did. Because lawyers are not known for being super altruistic at that level. I know some lovely lawyers. Some of my favorite people are lawyers. I'm not even kidding. But people who are Donald Trump lawyer, I doubt they're in it because they feel like Donald Trump, you know, needs a helping hand.
It's funny, that whole idea of sort of, you know, defense lawyer and, you know, the prosecution, and it's all such a weird aspect of court.
It's like, a weird, the whole system. Court is weird.
It doesn't seem to be coming from a balanced place. It just seems who can sort of articulate better, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's capitalism as well. It's who can afford the best lawyer, which is obviously a faulty system, but that's the one we've got.
It's not based on like, these are the facts, you know, is this or is this not something that happened, you know?
Yeah, and it's because there's the reasonable doubt thing as well. And this isn't the same.
He went to a McDonald's beforehand, so he's on camera, you know, when he should have been there, you know, and it's not, it just doesn't seem legit most of the time. We all know we all know it's fake. We all know that they just either due to money or just manipulating the law somehow so they can like find a loophole to get out of it. And it's crazy that these things still happen.
Yeah, and sort of issues with, and not that all of this would necessarily come to a jury case or whatever, in which case it would be really bloody hard to pick a jury because it would have to be people who hadn't heard of Trump, essentially.
Yeah, how would that work?
Because they're supposed to basically screen for people who have sort of like preconceptions, and
maybe Mexicans.
They're gonna have preconceptions. They're gonna be right
from below the border.
Yeah, they're gonna have heard of him.
Senor Trump. That means Senor Trump.
The old one. Yeah, it's kind of very hypothetical because there's no sense of whatever case this would ever actually turn into. I doubt it would be, but just like picking juries in general, it's I don't even know how they can like in this day and age, the way media is disseminated and stuff like that. The best I think they can hope to do is pick people who don't definitely have an interest group in the race, basically. But no, it's crazy.
It's never gonna happen.
Yeah, but so far, I don't really know what direction. Like, I assume if they ever actually have to get Trump to make a statement, he will probably lie, and hopefully they can get him for perjuring himself. But
would he be the first president that's been impeached?
That we've talked about this before, and it's weird because they like kind of impeached people a couple times but didn't really. So they kind of impeached Nixon and they kind of impeached Clinton, but both times they didn't really. And I think there's a third one that something weird happened. I'm really terrible in American history. That's like the one history that I'm terrible on.
I think everyone is, because they don't give a fuck. Like
yeah,
everyone else in the world, like we've heard it a bunch of times.
But I think like Canada especially, like we aggressively refuse to teach American history, just like because America doesn't teach Canadian history, because there's nothing up there. You see maps and it's just like,
oh, snow.
Yeah.
I wonder what the average American knows about Canada.
I've heard some amazing things. Like I'm sure there are plenty of people who know a ton, but I've heard some amazing anecdotes from friends of mine who moved to the States. Yeah. Like I've spoken to friends of mine who moved to the States who discovered that, and these would be American, you know, school kids. So, you know, not necessarily.
Are you smarter than a 10-year-old?
Yeah, exactly. But who didn't know what language Canadians spoke. And it wasn't like, maybe it's French or maybe it's English. They like were surprised that Canadians spoke English at all.
I'm surprised they do as well, to be honest.
Yeah, I know, right, eh?
Sorry. Could you say that again?
I know, right, eh? Oh, geez, eh?
So guys, this is what I have to put up with every single day. This is her posh speaking voice.
I'm doing
when I'm cooking,
my NPR voice.
All I hear is her singing in this. Yeah. Yo. Yeah. She's like talking about moose and
it's all the moose
and bears.
Moose,
bears beats and
roofs. Got roofs. What?
Bears beats
and Battlestar Galactica. Sweet. My faves.
And beets is in BEETS, not beet.
I love beets.
Dre beets.
Lovely roasted beets. Yeah.
Not Dre beets.
Not Beats by Dre.
So Laura and I have been going back and forward all week with articles, and it's essentially AI is coming up with.
I've been having so much fun.
Yes. And it's AI is coming up with names and disease names, and they've drawn Dungeons and Dragons monsters.
It's so funny.
And it's hilarious.
It's like people using sort of neural networks to get AIs to generate. I've been looking at inspirational posters. They were brilliant.
What was the one you sent me?
Do you have it on your phone? My phone's charging. And so basically it's this like.
So basically they got an AI to generate an inspirational poster, and I guess they take all the ones and sort of
but it turns out a lot of them are sarcastic, so they're getting like super mean ones off Twitter and stuff like that.
Maybe it's just the human's ability to put like an inflection on it that it becomes sarcastic. Like maybe it's just because I think a lot of them are like, you get the standard ones that are like, keep trying, and then you get the sarcastic ones that are like, stop trying and die, you motherfucker. But this seems to have collated all of them, so it's weird. So the one you sent me, is it I wonder if they chose the
picture. Choose the images as well, as far as I know. Yeah.
So essentially, there's someone in a bunny suit facing away off into the distance.
But it's quite like filtered. It's quite Instagram looking.
Very Insta filter.
Yeah.
And there's the typical sort of motivational picture font. So isn't it kind of obvious that spiders are spiders because you are a moron? ?
That was my favorite one.
That's deep.
I was doing this after I got home from my bar shift last night at like 2 a.m. and just getting these inspirational quotes and laughing my head off.
Do you have the ones with the diseases?
Did I send you the link?
Okay, yeah.
Because my phone's charging.
Oh, okay. Okay, so there's basically, are they just randomly generating?
They're trying to generate convincing names for diseases.
Okay.
For human diseases, I don't know what their criteria were, like what information they fed the thing.
Like, are they trying to name diseases?
I think it's just for fun.
Okay, it's for fun.
I'm gonna say it seems to be the same woman that's in a few of them.
So a bunch of scientists, nerds, a bunch of nerds did this.
I love nerds.
Okay, so they're saying powerful IFL science. I love that website.
I fucking love science.
Yeah, brilliant. And the woman that runs it, she's done a brilliant job with it.
Mm-hmm. My favorite one was seal breath, just right off the bat.
So poison tissues.
And I think they spell tissues kind of wrong as well.
It's TISHUES.
Yeah.
Okay, so like tissues.
Poison tissues.
So this is randomly AI generated disease names. Vomnia. What could that possibly be?
When you throw up in your oven, I don't know.
Okay, right. I'll tell you them, and you tell me what disease this pertains to.
Let's not do. There are like 25 of them. Let's not do them all. We'll do a couple. Okay, Jesus Christ.
I can't even say them all.
No one can. That's okay.
Sex or soma ear.
That's when you go mental from listening to your neighbors in a new build apartment have sex all night.
Okay, that's all right.
Yeah.
Insect skulls, but spelled SCULS. Skull the Warrior King.
I'm already done. I don't know what that is.
Okay, this is my favorite one.
Yeah.
I think it's just because it's completely earnest.
Yeah.
Complex disease.
That's my second favorite one. That's when everything is wrong with you.
It wouldn't be a disease if it wasn't complex.
Can I read you my favorite one, which to me sounds like the name of like an Emily Dickinson poem or something, or like if Emily Dickinson started a punk band.
Sorry, who the fuck is Emily Dickinson?
She's a very earnest poet.
Okay,
and you should.
Aren't they all?
She's an especially earnest poet. Strecting dissection of the breath. But after that is orgly disease, which I think is great.
Okay, seal breath.
Seal breath, I love.
I think that's brilliant though. But when you wake up in the morning, you've had a nice night out with your significant estranged loved
and
one.
you ate too much blubber. Estranged?
Yeah, it's a one night stand.
Oh, I see.
She turns around and she's like, "I gotta put the kettle on." You're like, I've got seal breath.
I feel like, yeah, I get it. I like it. I like how it's specific to like hooking back up with someone you've divorced. That's perfect.
What about tossy blanter?
That's when you have some sort of weird aphasia, but only when you're shooting the shit. So if you're talking about serious stuff, you're fine. Okay. But if you're trying to have the banter,
tossy blanter.
It's just like word salad. Yeah, tossy blanter.
What is it when you swap the first letter of each word? What's that called? You could equally do that. It'd be bossy tantler.
That sounds like a very specific type of erotica in a magazine.
Bossy tantler.
A bossy tantler. You get your weekly issue of bossy tantler.
Cancer of cancer.
Well, that sucks, obviously.
Maybe that's if they're going to come up with an actual solution to cancer. You give your cancer.
I think it's more like when a crab has cancer. You know how crabs are.
I get it. Okay. I get it.
Yeah. Cancer of cancer.
Oh my god. Bull cancer spices.
Spices?
Yep.
It's a really aggressive form of cancer that makes you crave spicy food.
Okay, that's good. This one sounds more like a sort of what's his name? Dick Van Dyke character. From Mary Poppins.
Sweet.
Lentford foot.
Lentford foot, yes. I think it's like a very specific fungus that you get on your foot.
That happens on Lent.
Oh,
yes.
Lent. Yeah, when you try and cross a river on Lent.
Yes.
A Lentfjord foot.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh.
It is F-O-R-D. So
I know, but you'd say like afford to cross a river, I think still.
I can't afford to hear you say that. Macho saver.
Macho, what's the second one?
Saver.
Macho saver?
Sounds like a Pokemon.
That's when you go to the gym too much and it makes you hungry.
Hey. This one is quite literal as well. R.I.P. syndrome.
Yes. That's when you die.
Literally.
Yes. I like it. It's so funny.
Okay, milk timosis.
Milk timosis. That's when you drink too much milk and you feel queasy.
Or you eat too much milk steak and you get milk timosis.
Yes, you get the old milk timosis.
Ear poop.
That's when you got crap in your ear.
Yeah. Teenages.
That's when you're a teenager. And everything goes wrong. It's psychological and physical at the same time. It's like
your teenage years all melded into one.
And so it's like you grow randomly and go mental. Basically, that's what happens.
Like most diseases.
And most teenagers.
Strecting dissection of the breath.
That's the one that's, yeah, I love that one.
Bacterial fraudulent syndrome.
That's when your bacteria aren't really bacteria. They're pretending.
Or they pretend to be a disease, but they're not really.
Yeah, they're just hanging out. It's just like your normal friendly bacteria.
It's like a phantom
pregnancy.
Like,
oh, we're going to get you. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, yeah, we don't care. She's not really pregnant.
Yeah.
She's just fat.
Oh, or mental again.
Orgly disease.
Orgly disease is when you're ugly like an orc.
Okay.
Yes.
Orgly.
Orgly.
It sounds like a sort of black slang for that. You're orgly.
Orgly.
Disease.
I like it.
Liver bits.
I think that's like, yeah, that's when you have Hannibal Lecter syndrome.
No, that's his cereal in the morning.
Oh, liver bits.
Yes.
Yeah, and he pours some nice Chianti over it. Yeah.
You can hear those liver bits hitting the bowl.
We need a sound. Ew. Oh.
Okay, clob.
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 Oh my
name
god,
is
this is
Club.
gonna be your most unlistenable episode ever.
No, all the episodes are unlistenable.
That's a club foot, but your mouth. So lollipop like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Spleen sink.
I think that's like what happens after the liver bits. It's like we get the spleen out as well, but it goes in the sink. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it falls out.
Okay, this one's just two body parts mixed together.
Yeah.
Ovarian pancreas.
Oh my god. That's, I guess, kind of like I don't know. When those two organs get their functions mixed up, it'll be cool.
That's what happens when you get the pancreas of the Caribbean.
Oh yes. The Pirates of the Pancreas. Yeah.
Okay, so womble submoration.
That's when the wombles get inside you, I guess.
For our North American listeners.
I still only kind of know what wombles are, so
Gremlins.
Gremlins, okay.
Super syndrome. That's what Superman has, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of like if you think you're the shit, but you're not.
Or when you're sort of taking an allergic reaction to the sun, which makes you super.
Yes.
Low life.
Well, we already know many of those.
There's a lot of people with that disease.
Yeah, there's a lot of people with low life.
Excessive woot sweating.
That's when your woot sweats excessively, obviously.
Woot woot. When you keep wooting, you sweat profusely.
That'll be it.
Okay, and the last one. There's been a murder. It's fish poisoning.
Well, maybe that's like when you eat too much fish with like mercury and stuff in it and you die from that. That could be real.
So the way they've signed off on this article.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I don't know if you saw it or not.
I can't remember because I was reading it at 2 a.m.
So essentially, the woman has said, she says, okay, the huge majority of the posters were either totally hilarious or terrifyingly dark.
Yeah.
So she said, sleep tight and don't let the RIP syndrome bite.
Well, maybe it's a good thing I couldn't remember that before I fell asleep. So
that is funny.
It was very funny. I was really like, I got home from work and I have a hard time winding down after work because it's very extroverted and there's a lot of running around and talking to people. I work at a wine bar, so that makes sense.
No, she works at a dog shelter.
Yeah. When I
dogs
talk to all the dogs.
In the shelter.
I'd find that relaxing but emotionally very stretching. We would just have like 42 dogs because I'd be like, no, I'll just keep this one. It's fine.
Surprised we don't have 42 dogs.
I know. It's because we lead an unreasonable lifestyle.
That's probably
neither of us are ever home.
Probably the meaning of life is 42 dogs.
42. I think so. I'm up with that. But yeah, so I couldn't get to sleep when I got home. So my lovely host here had sent me an article earlier about neural nets naming Dungeons and Dragons characters, and it linked to a bunch of other ones. They're like guinea pigs that they were naming, and I just laughed like a freak alone in my flat for like half an hour before I fell asleep.
There's a guinea pig one.
There is. They're names of guinea pigs. They're great.
Give me
the last one is Princess Pow, but that's all I can remember.
That sounds very much like a sort of Powerpuff Girl guinea pig.
Yeah, exactly. That was actually one of the more lucid ones, probably. They were funny. I do also have, if we're interested, I found a weirdest name of the year of March Madness table.
Yeah, okay. So essentially, is this someone in the world with the weirdest name?
Yes, and it's something Deadspin, the website, does. I think they get sick of like basketball and they decide to do weirdest name.
Wait a minute. This is a basketball website?
Well, it's a sports website, but you know, March Madness is like general. Yeah. So they've done it for weirdest names as sort of a palate cleanser, I guess. I'll just read you a few of my favorites. A list. Yeah. So they have.
So just to preface
seeds, basically, and the 2 seeds go up against each other, and then you get the winner.
An actual league of
this is a league
names.
of people with weird names, and I don't know how they find it. I was trying to find more information.
Maybe
but
census.
Haven't got there now. People send them to them,
Okay.
but I think they need to prove that they're real.
So they probably just send like their driver's license, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know how
Not
that
send.
works.
They take a picture, maybe.
Yeah, some of them have been in the news.
Okay.
Like a few of them have come up. Like there was somebody named. So this is someone who is being held in a Georgia jail accused of leaking classified NSA material related to Russian interference in the latest presidential election, and her name is Reality Winner.
What?
And that's a real person.
That is not a real name.
It is, and they get even better.
Oh
so
my
some of my
God.
favorites
Wait
are.
a minute.
Yeah.
I'm gonna digest this one.
Yes.
So a woman who was embroiled in the Russian scandal, part of the NSA.
Yeah, not part of the. Well, I don't know. She must have been at least peripherally involved since she had access to NSA material. I can find the news article.
And how do you spell that?
Like the two words, reality and winner.
Come on, what would you expect that girl looks like, and what does she do on her days off?
She gets manicures on her days off,
Okay.
for sure.
Okay.
I feel like her parents were probably some sort of fundamental Christians or hippies or both. A cult. I'm going to say a cult.
Or they loved reality TV.
Reality Winner grew up in a carefully kept manufactured home on the edge of a cattle farm 100 miles north of the Mexican border in a majority Latino town where her mother, Billy, still lives.
So they all have weird names. Is that Billy with an IE or?
IE, yeah. That still doesn't really come. Okay, so her husband named Reality. The deal had been that Billy got to name their first Brittany, but their second was his to choose. He noticed on a t-shirt at their Lamaze class the words, "I coached a real winner." He wanted a success story and felt that an aspirational name would increase his chances of producing one. And so she got named Reality Winner.
And she then went into the NSA of all fucking things.
She was almost a comically mature adolescent, intellectually adept, impatient with her peers.
Sounds like you. I'm
I'm
going to
glad
start
I've got
calling you. I'm going to start calling you Reality Winner.
I'm going to start calling you. Let me get another one from here.
And how old is she? 40, or was that what I saw? How old is she?
I don't know. I haven't seen that yet.
Imagine being like an old woman with a name. Reality.
Well, that's the thing you should always think of when you name your
Yeah.
kid is like they have to be called this as a baby and an old person. So for God's sake, don't name them Gumdrop or
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, there's a name in Scotland, but there's a few names actually. Agnes is one
Yeah.
of them, and I can never think of someone that's young with the name Agnes.
Yeah, you at least have to make it adaptable. Like I can't really imagine a baby named Richard, but you can call him like Ricky
Baby
or something.
Dick.
Yeah.
You can't remember.
No.
You can't imagine
No,
a baby dick.
But I mean, you're trying to pervert my point here, and I don't mean subvert. I mean
You're
pervert.
the one that brought up baby dick.
But it's like you can call them by a name that's not inappropriate,
Okay.
basically.
Little Dick.
Stop. Let me think of another example. Okay, so some of my
So
favorite.
Little Dick's crying.
Calm down.
Your little dick's crying.
My parents are gonna listen to this. You're gonna be in trouble. So some of my
Cat
favorite.
burglar.
Calm down. Some of my favorite names from this are.
Okay, what's in the second tier of names?
The second tier. What's the second tier?
When you cry on your second eye.
I don't know. There's somebody here named Darth Vader Williamson.
Those are like the two best names put together ever.
Mike Diaper.
There's no way there's someone called
There
Mike
is someone
Diaper.
named Mike Diaper. Forbes Thor Cadu. Oh, this was one of my favorites from last night. Dr. Narwhal's Mating.
What?
Dr. Narwhal's Mating.
There's no way that's a real person's name.
Reverend Hobbit Forest.
Wait a minute, rewind. Come on. This narwhal's mating.
Yes.
An animal with a spear on its head.
Yes.
From the Arctic.
And they have to mate,
essentially-
otherwise there'd be no more narwhals. Yeah, it's Dr. Narwhal's Mating.
It's like, think of the thought process of what went on to sort of name your child this. He must have been like some sort of oceanic.
There are
person
several
in the
answers.
Arctic.
The answers include bets and hippies and religious
Yeah,
people.
I think
Not for
I
narwhals.
think
but
hippies.
Hippies. I'm going to say Gandalf Hernandez. Got some more hippies there. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, like Tolkien hippies.
No.
No?
Someone loved the movie and was Mexican.
Oh, okay. I guess so. They don't have the context for Gandalf being not a name you give people. Cool.
Imagine going to school with Gandalf.
I know. A few of these people sound like they could be spies. For instance, here we have next to each other.
You shall not pass.
We've got Palestine Ace and Sixto Cancel. I think both of them sound like secret agents. So that's cool.
Or something that happens in Vegas.
That is. Oh, here's someone named Devoid Couch.
We're devoid of a couch as well.
Shamoil Ship Chandler. Some of them are just funny sounds. Oh, here's a religious one. Most High, thank God. That's definitely got to be like Shakers or something.
So what part of the name? Like what's the first name?
Most High, one word is the first name.
Okay, Most High.
Thank God, one word is the second name.
But that could be someone who loves weed.
Yes, it could equally be super fundamentalist Christians or complete stoners. So that's cool. Or it could be a compromise. Mom could be one, dad could be the other.
Who would you say?
What can we agree on? I'm gonna say mom.
Dad's got to be the stoner, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Because only he would come up with a retarded name like that.
Duckins Nazen. Duckins, that's quite sweet.
What even is a Nazen?
I don't know. It sounds like some sort of nose appliance. Leroyce Lobster Gaines. But you're a lobster.
Well, I'm a lobster gain.
Yeah, lobster gain.
Lobster gains is when you eat lobster purely and you get muscle.
Bo Titsworth. Mahogany Loggins. That just has a nice ring to it. That's just someone who didn't think it through. Like, what's a beautiful name? Mahogany. My favorite tree is mahogany. What's our last name? Don't worry about it.
But some of these last names are pretty weird in themselves.
Yes, that's the problem with a lot of these. And some of them are normal, but they really misshot the first name. Quindarius Gooch.
There's no way someone's called their last name's Gooch. There's no way. How was it spelled?
Gooch. I've actually seen that before. That's an actual last name.
What?
Yes.
For who? Aliens?
People.
My mother was an alien.
My father. Maverick Buffo and Chosen Roach. I like Chosen Roach. That's
Chosen
nice.
Roach.
Chosen.
Definitely another stoner, maybe.
Or a Christian.
Why would you talk about a roach?
Or just someone who, well, the Roach is the last name, so they didn't choose it. They just happen to be called Roach.
So it's an ironic name.
It could be. Some of them are definitely just people being weirdos, like Darth Vader Williamson.
I like that one, though.
That's cool. The thing I think is amazing is they run this every year. So these are all people who didn't come to their attention last year.
Yeah.
And somebody, I'll see who won last year.
I always had this thing I would say at parties when it came to like the conversation of kids. And
yeah.
I always maintained that I was going to call one of my...
Oh, I know this one. I've heard this one.
I was always going to call one of my kids Floppy Donkey Dick.
It's like an extreme version of Boy Named Sue. Yeah.
Because, well, not in that sense where people are going to beat him up, or she, you know.
Yes.
Floppy Donkey Dick could be a guy or a girl.
It's definitely a unisex name.
And the reason that I thought this was because everyone gets bullied in high school for their name. Yeah. But there's no way you can get bullied for having that name.
No, because it's not like you can turn it into a pun or something, because it's already all out there.
It's like, oh, hey, Floppy.
Yeah. Floppy.
Oh, is that the best you can do?
Yeah.
Or, hey, Donkey Dick. That's my name.
Yeah, that's my name. So the guy who won last year's
didn't go down well at parties, obviously.
No, nobody was into that.
People thought he would get bullied more, but I don't think so.
I think people just wouldn't know what to do with it, to be honest.
Exactly. It's a shock factor.
The guy who won last year is an offensive lineman from Lawrence, Kansas, and his name is Kobe Buffalo Meat.
So generally he's just like offensive.
Offensive, yeah.
What's Buffalo Kobe Meat?
Kobe Buffalo Meat.
Okay.
First name Kobe, last name Buffalo Meat.
That's his last name?
That's his last name. I assume it's like Native American. Yeah.
Even then, it seems like someone who's trying to name Native American people like...
The person who came in second, his name was Sultan McDoom.
I love that one.
What else have we got? The others are Aphrodite Bodycomb, Marmaduke Treblecock, Chardonnay Pentastico.
That's a great one.
Fortunate Sithole. Jeff Rosenberg, one word, Tan.
Jeff Rosenberg?
Jeff Rosenberg.
How do you even say that?
Jeff Rosenberg.
How do you spell it?
Like
Jeff or Jeff?
Jeff Rosenberg. Okay.
Jeff Rosenberg.
Andy Brandy Casagrande the fourth. Quindarius Monday and Faraj Fardas.
You don't get those type of names over in the UK.
You do not. No.
No.
This could only happen in America or Canada, I guess.
I think the most extreme name I've heard in the UK is, I don't know. I've not even heard one. I guess it's Ziggy.
Ziggy.
And his parents were like huge fans of David Bowie.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
And it was also the worst party I've ever been to.
Ziggy was the worst party you've ever been to?
Yeah, of course.
I guess any party where you meet somebody named Ziggy and you know where their name came from is already a party where you had to talk to somebody named Ziggy for too long.
Well, we went to a party and Ziggy played guitar.
Of course he did.
And he was jamming with the spiders.
From Mars? Yeah. I gotcha.
No, it was a terrible, terrible party.
I thought you were going to say the spiders weren't from Mars. I thought you were going to...
terrible name.
What defines a terrible party?
How about the worst looking flat that you've ever been in?
Where was it?
Fife.
Okay, yeah.
Glenrothes.
Trying to explain Fife to people who aren't from Scotland without getting like parcel bombed. Because you share a flat and that would suck.
I kind of would either like the Gaza Strip or
I feel like the Alabama of Scotland.
No, the Gaza Strip or, you know, some war-torn country.
But it's like war-torn but boring somehow. Yeah.
But yeah, essentially a really down-and-out city, and everyone sort of has a weird, strange, hard edge to them, even though they can be nice and whatever, but they've grew up in a place that's essentially like if the amount of money that's earned there and the sort of conditions, it could be seen as a war-torn country. And there's sort of nothing to do except be like wildly and asymmetrically aggressive or super nice, but it's always really unexpected. So this party was my friend and I were at college, and he ended up flirting with this girl. Not with girls. He was from Glenrothes. I will keep his name unknown because he probably won't like me telling this story. Awesome. I'm excited. And essentially, it's not a crazy story, just in terms of showing how crazy Fife is. Yeah. And I mean this in the sort of in a joking way. If there's any Glenrothes folk listening, please don't sell us any anthrax. Yeah. We got the bus through. She invited to her party. It wasn't her party, it was her friend's party, who later turned out to be Ziggy. And me and my friend must have been about 17 at the time. We hadn't really sort of gotten the bus to go anywhere secluded before. Right. Got there. The bus station in Glenrothes is notoriously sketchy. So you can imagine just arriving there and look on our faces like, what have we done? Yeah. We go to cross the road, and some of the traffic lights in Scotland speaks to you to tell you to cross. Yeah. This one was broken. So it was like, it sounded like something from hell. It was like speaking to you. So we were like, did we cross the road or not? Off to a brilliant start. Cross the road. Literally get across the road. Some guy runs past us, like whizzes past us. Yeah. Then a couple of seconds later, like a bunch of policemen like running after him. Okay. Get to the multi-story sort of housing complex that this guy was staying at. Me and my friend at this point didn't really dress like moshers. We were just like semi-tight jeans, you know, maybe a band t-shirt of some sort, and some Vans trainers or something. Yeah. Nothing too excessive. Did you have funny hair? Or? Yeah, we all did at that point. Walk up to the building. There's a couple of Neds. Yeah. Juvenile delinquents shouting out the window, "Hi, you bunch of goths." Because you like weren't wearing tracksuits. We weren't even wearing eyeliner. Or holding hands at this point. Or you weren't turning into bats and playing around, or... Yeah. And yeah, so we get to this guy's party, meet the girl that my friend's trying to like, you know, hook up with. Yeah. Go into the apartment, terrible, like just really down and out. I think there was a half-turned carpet on the floor. Sweet. There was clothes everywhere, and like a mustiness to the whole place. Oh. Like it just never felt like it'd been cleaned. Right. Now, didn't bother me, and my friend was like, we have to leave. This is like awful. He was wanting to like get on the next bus, and I was like, well, we're here now. Let's just
go
stay
on safari. Yeah.
And the party started, like Ziggy started playing guitar, and I heard like thumping at the door, his front door, and I'm like, I think someone's I want to come in.
Yeah.
He's like, oh no, it's just the guys upstairs. They have a tennis ball on the end of a bit of string. They hit the door, and then when I come out to answer the door, they throw stuff at me. So he just never answered his front door.
So he's got like a Home Alone trap, basically.
Yeah. So basically, I fell asleep underneath a curtain. Like that's how like crazy it was. And when I woke up in the morning, it was like super damp everywhere, and we were like, right, let's leave right now.
Ew.
And that was my wonderful experience of Fife.
That's funny.
Fife for life, as they say.
Fife for life. That's very funny.
Do you have any crazy party stories?
We used to throw ridiculous parties. Not like ridiculous, like totally crazy, but ridiculous, and just the weird stuff always happened because we had a funny group of friends. In my last 2 years in Dublin, because it was my friend Sam's parents' house, and they were like his mum was an ambassador for Ireland, and so they stayed in Bratislava. So their house was empty. So Sam let out rooms
Was that a big house?
Yeah, it was like a grown-up house. It was like a nice house. Yeah.
I like how that's your judgment of like your parameter is. Oh, it's an adult house.
Yeah, it had stairs. Like, like my room, like the window was broken. There wasn't any heating, so that was not ideal. But I had a roof to sit on. It was cool, and it was like he didn't charge us that much rent. He was really cool.
How long did you stay there?
2 years.
Wow.
And we used to have parties, and we had like it was just a funny group of people because it was sort of like the like nerds, but like the flavor of nerds who like to party as well, and like book nerds, like all sort of like literary types, but that runs the spectrum from like Emily Dickinson, again, very quiet and reserved, to like Lord Byron, where we're like drinking out of skulls and stuff like that. So, but I can't think of any specific. I can think of specific incidents, but none I should probably talk about, to be honest. There was the one when we used to have this problem where some of our friends were posh and they wouldn't understand about not eating our food because we couldn't get any more, basically. And there was one when we got really fed up because somebody was eating all of our porridge at about 3 a.m, and then.
Who was it? Who would?
I don't remember.
What imbecile would go to a party and eat all the porridge?
I don't know.
Who has porridge unless they're poor?
Yeah, exactly. And like, don't eat our porridge. It's all we've got. But we ended.
You probably thought like, I've never had this. Like, we didn't have porridge in my household growing up.
Yeah, we always only had eggs Benedict for breakfast. I've never seen this. How do you make it?
You just put it in the frying pan and that's it.
I think it was Tom, my flatmate, and I can't remember who else. It might have been maybe our other friend Ray, locked ourselves in our own bathroom because we were sick as a people at our own party and sat in the bathtub until everyone went away that time. The best is probably not actually a party, but at one point my friend Ray came and stayed with us because he lived in Ireland, but he lived in Drogheda, which is like outside Dublin, and he'd come hang out and he'd stay at ours for like a couple days. And for some reason we had a tent. I think we'd gone to a festival, and we set up just for fun the tent for him. And so in this house, the living room was like on the top floor and all the bedrooms were below it. It was quite weird.
That's strange.
And there was a bunch of space in the living room, and we set up the tent for Ray in the living room. So he was sleeping in there, and Sam's mom, who was the owner of the house, had come home. I think we were expecting her, but not until later. And for some reason, I don't know why, Sam had determined that she would be upset if there was someone extra staying there. I don't really know why. How many
were there of you staying there?
There were 3 of us.
Okay.
But I guess because he wasn't paying rent. I don't really remember why.
How long was he trying to stay for?
He used to stay, like, we had friends who stayed for like 6 weeks. Like, it was like...
Nice.
Yeah. He wasn't there for that long. But anyway, but we determined basically that he should not come out of the tent and should be very quiet. And so while she's upstairs pottering around and making tea and stuff, Ray is like in the tent, like texting me like, I'm really scared, basically. Basically, yeah. And so he just held still in the tent until she went away. It was like a couple hours.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It wasn't like totally debauched or anything, but it was fun.
That's funny that you stayed in. Like, how much was the rent? Like, for staying in
like
this house?
Not much. It varied. He'd basically charge us for bills because it was empty anyway. So bells.
He would renew the bells all the time and you had to pay for it. Is that essentially what you're saying?
Totally. No, he basically would. It was supposed to be a certain amount. I can't remember how much, but like very cheap. But then he'd usually just sort of charge us for electric, or he'd give us some back. And yeah.
There was the first sort of flat I stayed in. It was me, my best friend. We moved in beside our other sort of really good friend, Chloe. Mm-hmm. We run the music course together. Yeah. And I think we lived together it was her flat, but me and Steve-O were looking, sorry to name you Steve-O, we were looking for somewhere to stay.
Steve-O, you're on the podcast.
And shout out to Steve-O, he's in Australia living for the last 5 years. And it was like so cheap as well, and we basically lived on the floor in the living room of a 1-bedroom apartment. And you can imagine she was like obviously really good friends with guys like her whole life, like that was just who she got on with.
Yeah.
But I think it was the first time living with 2 guys, and it just sort of like really started to get on her nerves.
Yeah.
And the final straw for her was when me and Steve-O made like a pizza, like an oven pizza.
Yeah.
And he just like let all the cheese melt all over the oven, and he didn't clean it up.
You butts.
No, it wasn't me, it was him.
Oh, I see. Nothing to do with you, eh?
But she was watching us do this, and she threw like an absolute fit because of, I mean, obviously it was a culmination of everything leading up to that point, but she just flipped her lid because of this bit of cheese in the oven, and she went crazy. That's funny. And we would just tell people like, yeah, she threw us out because
we cheese. Cheese. I had because I lived with the 2 guys obviously for the last 2 years in Dublin, and like I was generally the one who would tidy up, but just because I was the one who kind of cared the most, like it didn't really bother me. But the thing I found was really, and it was like they weren't like super messy, it was never awful. People pretty much managed to do their washing up eventually. I've seen some horrifying student flats and it wasn't quite so bad, but you know, I remember times when I'd like clean all day and come back and everything would be pristine except someone would have made like pasta and just left a big tomatoey spoon in the middle of the counter, and I'd be like, I'm gonna go put it in your bed. But I remember a few times I'd clean, and like especially Tom would be like, he would feel better but he wouldn't know why. Like he would be like, everything feels somehow perceptibly more positive, but he wouldn't know it was because I'd cleaned. He was just like confused about it.
Did they not clean?
No, not really, because I don't think they realized I was doing it. They thought it was just sort of like maintaining.
Like fairies that were going
like
around.
We'd like if the
Have you seen that video of the guy like, oh, if we just leave the washing here,
it just
on this
does
counter,
itself.
like it comes back and it's all washed and folded.
Oh, magic! Yeah, I definitely know. Well, I was like that when I was a kid. For like, I did chores, but anything I didn't do, I just didn't know how it worked, basically. And I remember there was one time. Oh, that
like
when
a
my
bicycle.
mom. Oh, yeah, totally. No, I know how they work. I just can't work them. It was like my mom was really busy because she was doing a project basically. And so it was my dad and I mostly doing stuff in the house. And the one thing that sort of slipped between the cracks was that when my mom buys milk, so for people who don't know, in Canada, milk comes in bags.
What?
Did you not notice that?
Milk in a bag.
In a bag. Everyone Google it now. This isn't the first time I've had this conversation. People don't believe me. It's true. You get milks in bags. Just search like Canadian milk bag. I don't know, but that's just how it is. And that's how I grew up with it. You can get it in like Tetra Paks as well, but mostly, or cartons or whatever.
That's crazy.
Mostly it's in bags. And the thing I didn't know is when my mom buys milk, she puts like a couple of them in the fridge upstairs, but we have another fridge downstairs, and she'd put the rest in there. Yeah. And she'll bring them up when we're running out of milk. But both my dad and I were like, where does the milk come from? Basically. Then eventually I was like, oh, it's down there. We have to bring it up. Like, why isn't it happening?
There's have you seen Home Alone?
Yes, but I don't remember it very well.
Basically, Kevin McAllister left home. He is scared of the basement. Oh. Is that something that you were like afraid of?
So I used to play in the basement when I was a kid, so it was cool. But one time, so I watched.
So you're Satan's child.
Yes, I watched this series called Ghostwriter when I was a kid.
What?
Did you watch
Really?
Ghostwriter?
The one with the pen and it was
Yes!
like the ghost.
Did you watch Ghostwriter?
And it was like 5 high school kids.
Yeah, and they'd like solve mysteries.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I can't. This is the whole basis of
We
a
used to
relationship,
get-
basically. Yeah, this is why we get on. I've only met 1 or 2 other people who have ever watched Ghostwriter. It was my favorite.
I was noticing there's a general theme to our relationship.
Yeah, because I got like the pen on the string and everything.
No way,
Oh
like
my
the one that
God.
went
yeah.
around the neck.
Yeah, it was so cool. I was so happy.
Where did you get it from?
I don't know. It was just like in a loot bag from
Was
a
it like
party
an
or something.
oversized one as well? I think it was like slightly bigger than a normal.
I think it was just a bit like kid sized. I'm not sure. But do you?
It was my primary school that we used to watch it.
Really?
Yeah, and
I don't know how we found it. It was my favorite show.
Sometimes we would have like plain clothing days.
Yeah.
Or I think maybe if it was like a really stormy day, there was only 35 of us in the whole primary school, and we would watch.
Because you went to school in the 1860s.
No, then there would be 12 million kids in my class. So we would watch these types of TV shows on the big TV. You know, the one that comes in on the wheelie thing that's strapped down.
Yeah, and you're always like, oh, goody. Yeah.
They'd like wheel it in.
Yeah.
We watched Ghostwriter on
That's
that.
so funny. It was like my favorite show growing up. We had like one.
Ghostwriter.
I can't even remember.
That was the song, obviously.
Not just riffing. We should like YouTube Ghostwriter.
Did you ever find out what the ghost was? Was he like
Not
Poe?
that I can remember.
Edgar Poe or something?
Edgar Allan Poe? I don't think so. It would have been like way pervier on teenage girls because Edgar Allan Poe totally married like a 14-year-old.
Really?
A really young person who I think was also his cousin. Yeah.
Oh, you're thinking of Great Balls of Fire guy.
No, it's just the same thing.
No.
Apparently guys with that haircut. But, where was I going with the Ghostwriter thing?
The pen. And
it was
got
something before
to do
that.
with the basement.
Oh, the basement. Did you remember seeing an episode with a guy called the Coal Man in it?
I can't remember much of it. I just remember the general sort of format of it.
Okay. There was one episode where the bad guy or the misunderstood guy or something, I don't remember, was a guy called the Coal Man. And I think he was from a cellar or a train. I don't know where he was from, but he was like covered in soot. And one day, and he was like the bad guy.
Extremely racist.
No, it was just.
Was it just
it's just
a black
classist.
guy?
No, it's like he's like all his clothes and everything as well. And one
I think
day,
you're remembering it wrong.
No,
it was
I'll
just
prove
a
it.
black
I'll find
guy.
it. Stop it. One day, my dad had been doing work in the basement, and he ended up. Yeah, that's it. Ghostwriter. He ended up getting totally covered in like soot. And I was coming down to the basement to go play, and my dad was coming up, and I saw him, and it was the Coal Man, and I had to be scraped off the ceiling for sure.
Really?
And then I was scared of the basement for a bit, and my dad had to like clean his face off of me like, it's me. I don't remember this. I've just been told this.
I think it was educational TV show, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, because there's stuff like there is educational, like the one episode I really remember well was because we had it on VHS, and it was one that was like a scavenger hunt in New York, but you learned about like Walt Whitman and like literary stuff in it. So
it was basically an invisible ghost named Ghostwriter.
Yeah.
Ghostwriter can communicate with the kids only by manipulating whatever text and letters he can find. So he was obviously some dead poet or something.
Yeah. And they had like old school computers in that. It was like MS-DOS, and he'd like write to them on that, but he'd like move letters around as well. And the kids on it was quite like, they weren't all sort of prigs. Like they were like a pretty reasonable cross section of New York, I think.
So they're saying it was critically acclaimed.
Mm-hmm. Because it was the shit.
And honoured for presenting a realistic, racially diverse world.
Yeah, there we go.
It was 2-hour mystery stories.
Okay.
By the end of its 3rd season, Ghostwriter ranked in the top 5 of all children's shows. And it was cancelled after the 3rd series due to lack of funding. So it wasn't because of the ratings.
Yeah, they just didn't have monies. But it was
broadcast in 24 countries worldwide and generated a number of foreign language adaptations, including a dubbed over version on Discovery Kids Latin America.
What was it called?
Fantasma Escreta.
That sounds so much better than Ghostwriter.
Fantasma Escreta. I don't know why I'm doing it in an Italian accent.
Close enough.
They're all Latin based.
Oh, I'm so happy you watched Ghostwriter.
Yeah,
I love Ghostwriter. Sweet.
There was also one we watched that was like the Hedgewig. Hedgewig.
I haven't seen that.
I think it was like a reverse hedgehog werewolf thing. It's like a werewolf hedgehog. Hedgewig or...
That sounds cool. I'm just going to run to the loo. I'll be right back.
It was essentially just the werewolf version of a hedgehog.
So did the hedgehog turn into a person or a wolf or?
I think it was just like a demented hedgehog.
Sweet.
I think it was just a hedgehog with rabies.
Distemper?
Thinking about it, it doesn't exist. I'm joking. Obviously.
Just a weird dream you had. Aww.
So yeah, I can't believe that you've seen Ghost Rider.
I can't believe you've seen Ghost Rider.
It
was like my favorite thing that was like the first thing I ever got really into.
I wanted one of those pens so bad, like the one that everyone got around their neck. It was crazy.
I probably it was so like it was like unrelated to Ghost Rider how I got one, and then I was like, oh, my life is made.
Is it just me, or is all TV shows from your era like the best when you're a kid? Like you always.
I think that's probably I don't know what that's like now for kids. I don't know what they watch now.
I think with the advent of sort of like everything's so readily available on on-demand TV, I'm not sure what the kids sort of side of it's like now. But when I was younger, obviously there was these dedicated TV shows that would come on every week, and you know for seasons or whatever, and they were brilliant. Like obviously Ghost Rider was an example. Raccoons or Power Rangers.
I like Sesame Street. It was good. Yeah. I had a fun when I was staying in Venice, so I got like a grant to go and do art in Venice for a month. It was really cool after I finished my master's. And when I was there, Venice is super confusing to navigate. I got to know it quite well. So I was able to give
maze.
It is like
it's
a
labyrinth.
Maze. Yeah. Oh God, honestly. I got to know it well enough that I could kind of give people directions that they asked me, and I got plugged into the Italian enough that I could kind of understand what people were asking, and I could say like right or left. Like that was
when you speak a dead language, that is the root of all those languages. I can guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I made the helpful decision to study Latin in high school, which is a really good idea, and everyone should do it because it's really handy for when you go to ancient Rome. So I a few times felt very proud of myself for giving like Italians directions in Venice. I was like, oh, heck yeah, but only for like super basic ones. But and I look not an Italian. Like my skin is the wrong color, but I fit in pretty well there.
You look like some sort of anemic vampiric Italian.
Yeah, exactly. I fit in better when I was younger. When I was like more tan when I was younger. It's Scotland's bloody fault. I'm not this color naturally, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, I was always tan when I was a kid. Yeah.
Oh, you look like you're blending in with our white walls at this point.
It's terrible. But I was stopped by a British couple and they asked me for directions. And I guess it was
the McCanns? Was it the McCanns?
Not as far as I know. Wrong country. And they asked me for directions and I was able to give them good directions in English, of course. And I think it was a combination of me being able to give them directions and then looking somewhat local. I think it was my demeanor as well. I was like plugged in there at that point. I don't have the tourist shit.
So you knew what was going on.
I knew what was going on. And they said, thank you very much. And can I just say your English is absolutely excellent.
Nice.
And I was like, thanks. I learned it from watching Sesame Street. And that was all I could think of to say.
Is that what you said?
Which is true. I just didn't mention that it was when I was like 3. But yeah, I told them I learned it from watching Sesame Street.
You did learn it from Sesame Street.
1.
when you were 6.
2. That's still why I can only count to like 4. They only cover that. Yeah. But yeah, I got to thank them for complimenting my excellent English.
And you just said, yeah, okay.
I didn't want to like ruin it. Okay. So I was like, yeah, thank you.
Oh, you didn't say Sesame Street?
I did say Sesame Street. Yeah. I was like,
did they get it?
No, they just thought I was an Italian who learned English by watching Sesame Street.
Probably thought you were talking about the topping of a bun.
Possibly. They thought I was being totally earnest, basically. So that was really fun. I liked it. The Sesame Street. Yeah. It'd be a sesame.
So to sort of kind of begin to wrap this up, we should probably get on to what's coming up in sort of movie and TV wise at this point.
Oh, well, we've got a couple we're waiting for.
I know.
We've got Justice League.
Not Justice League.
Or not Justice League. Or Infinity War. Infinity War. Infinity War.
You're barred from this podcast. If you think it's Justice League that's coming up.
I misspoke. Avengers Infinity War.
Yes.
Avengers Affinity War. And we've got Deadpool 2 coming up as well.
The Deadpool, the second trailer or the actual official one, I can't remember.
I think it's the second.
The recent one came out like a couple of weeks ago and it just looks fantastic.
It looks really funny and crazy. I'm excited.
I hope with having a bigger budget, I guess, it's not going to have an effect on it. Hopefully they embrace it.
Yeah, because that was such a sort of structural part of it last time. I'm sure whatever they do, they'll make lots of references to it in the film.
I think Ryan Reynolds sort of holds that character so dearly. I don't think he would let people ruin it in such a way.
Yeah, it completely reformed Ryan Reynolds for me as well. I never liked him.
I even like older parts that he did now.
Yeah, I see them differently now. Yeah,
because it's him, obviously.
Yeah.
I think the first time I seen him was when he was in It was about him being 7 years into college and he wasn't doing like a medical college. He was just like the guy that never
he was just there for too long.
He didn't leave.
That's funny.
Van Wilder.
Okay, I've heard of that. I haven't seen it.
So he's like the lad on campus. Everyone knows who he is. Okay. Obviously, he's had 7 years to accumulate a reputation. And he's the guy that owns everything, puts all the parties on, just solves everyone's problems.
Just the VMOC.
Like, but now, even going back and watching that one, I'm like, I get him now. I get him. It took Deadpool, like you say, to sort of understand Ryan Reynolds.
Because I'd seen him, the first thing I saw him in was in the third Blade. And Blade as a franchise is very close to my heart, but the third one was nauseating.
The franchise isn't close to my heart. The first one is.
I like the second one as well. It's not as good, but I like it. I think they do some interesting sort of world expanding there.
Maybe you could kind of see it as Terminator 1 and Terminator 2, where
it's like a different tone. Yeah. But then the third
one's a
one,
horror and one's a sort of actiony horror, I guess.
Yeah.
Because the first one generally is a sort of real life horror.
It is, but the action is so good in it as well. It just is good. I think it's a budgetary difference as well. Like they're
wanting to redo Blade.
Really?
But I don't think
no one else can. I'm sorry.
There's no one else that can play it.
Nope.
They're talking about Michael Jai White.
Nope.
But there's no
Wesley Snipes. That's it.
But those guys can't do martial arts.
No, he's incredible.
He can't.
Yeah.
Wesley Snipes can act just enough to play that part.
Yeah.
And he has the martial arts background to look convincing.
Yeah.
Well, he's 100%
he's
convincing.
So convincing. Yeah, honestly. That's one of my favorite films as well. The first, even like the effects have really not.
And I thought the guy that played
well.
Whistler, what's his name?
Chris Christopherson. Yeah.
That name always gets
And I am not even messing you. Yeah, his name is Chris Christopherson.
But he was a country singer, wasn't he?
Yeah, he is. He's a musician. He's a good musician
and
as
he
well.
was brilliant in that.
He's brilliant, yeah. And Stephen Dorff is the baddie.
I'm not too hot on him in the movie because I thought he was the weakest link.
See, I like it because I think it's interesting that he plays a vaguely pathetic bad guy, basically. Yeah. Like it's something, he's like a Gen X bad guy. I think compared to the like Udo Kier. Like I love Udo Kier. He's so good. He's amazing.
I think the whole movie up until the last scenes was brilliant. You know, when the blood sort of god came down and it was all this CGI
that's a bit
blood.
I didn't even remember that. That's funny.
That ruined that whole movie. Well, it didn't ruin the movie, but
it's not
it could have
worthy
been
of
an amazing movie for if it just, you know, they made, I don't know, because we were waiting for him to turn into this like legit badass Stephen Dorff, and he just turned into like a bubbling CGI mess. Yeah,
and it's super gross and not like the effects are not good. I love,
and for a movie that didn't rely on effects, to then have a heavy effects ending at the end,
it was not a good plan. No, all the build up to that is, and lots of the sort of side characters are really, really good. Like the sort of henchmen and stuff like that are good.
Who was the lady in it? The black lady.
I don't know the actress name.
She was quite
good.
beautiful, and she was good in it as well.
Yeah, she was really good. I don't remember her name.
Let's see.
I don't think I've seen her in anything else.
Maybe she has.
And the guy who gets his arm ripped off and the super blonde girl, they were good. And all the kind of the time lapse shots of like the city. It's a beautiful film as well. Like it's really gorgeous.
Like a sort of rawness to it as well, the movie, but it's brilliant. And I think it was Marvel's first movie.
I don't even
big movie.
know that.
I think it was their first big movie.
I've watched it like, that's probably the film I've maybe seen the most times. I've seen it like 35 times. Yeah, I just love it.
That intro, like the starting scenes will always live in my memory.
Yeah.
It's just fantastic.
The one
someone commented on Facebook recently, and they were saying they had just like a little question to all the sort of movie nerds, like what is the best shoot up intro?
Oh yeah.
But they obviously means with a gun.
Yeah.
And I said, let's not forget about this. And I obviously linked him to the blade, and he was like, yeah, that is just like the best bit, obviously.
I love also the scene in that, and it's still early on and you haven't twigged what's going on yet. And they're in the nightclub, and just when the sprinklers start and it's all blood and you like I love that.
And with the sort of European type trance music, I think was.
Yeah, and it's like a sort of warehouse. Well, it's not, it's like a butcher's, like whatever. Meat locker, but you just don't, it's just that moment of realization, like what the fuck.
Okay, we're talking of strange names.
Yep.
This woman's Nabushi, right?
Okay, yeah.
She was in Zebrahead, Fresh, Dead Presidents.
Okay.
A Talent for Trouble. Oh, she wasn't in anything.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of
She was on the Chappelle Show.
Oh, okay. Yeah, she was great in it. She was really good.
She was really good, yeah.
Yeah.
She was a strong part of that movie.
Yeah, she was. And also the actor who played the mom was good, even though it was like a super creepy reprise.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, obviously Deadpool's coming out.
Yup.
And the Avengers, the new Avengers, is going to be crazy.
I'm slightly concerned it's going to be 2.5 hours of people just saying, hey, my name's Iron Man. What's your name? Like, it's going to be just people meeting each other for the whole film. I don't know. It's going to be like a long series of handshakes.
Yeah, obviously, but I think obviously that can be your fear, but I don't think they'll do that.
No, they'll find a way around it. They're smarter than that.
And I think the thing they're pushing, obviously, from the new posters that they've released is there's going to be like 3 or 4 buddy team up.
Yeah.
Throughout the movie.
I was looking through some of their kind of just the promotional stuff that's on IMDb as well in terms of images, and a lot of them they've grouped like 3 or 4 characters. Saying, like, but like they seem to have been doing that for a while without. I didn't realize it until the most recent trailer.
Yeah.
They sort of highlight it, but it seems to have been their plan.
Yeah.
So that's good.
And obviously that'll be able to digest slightly better. And obviously there'll be 4 narratives going on, I guess.
Yeah.
And then they'll ultimately come together at some point.
Yeah, which is always cool. I like that sort of weaving bits and pieces together. It's interesting.
It's going to be so funny seeing certain characters interacting with each other. Like, you know, like Iron Man and what's his name from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Star-Lord.
Yeah, like seeing them interact. Yeah. Obviously he takes himself seriously and Chris Pratt's kind of like just a bit goofy as well.
Because you're going to have a lot of egos clashing together, so that's going to be cool.
And will it work? Is there going to be an overbearingness of like certain characters, or is this generally going to be a movie where they all complement each other? Yeah, because there's even within just the Avengers group, there's a certain amount of sort of personal difficulties sort of leading some of the action. So it'll be interesting when they expand that into a larger group of people, but also the stakes are so high theoretically. Yeah, I'm really intrigued. I'm excited. There was a lot of talk about the CGI on Josh Brolin's character. How they've sort of humanized him slightly. They gave him sort of more human-like eyes, because leading up to all the bits that he's played in the sort of end credits, he's had sort of different eyes, and his face is slightly more harsher. And I think the big push in this was to show that he's coming. Yeah, he's doing it because he has sort of maybe issues in his life that's why he's coming to sort of dominate. He's not just aimlessly and trying to rule the universe. Like, and he has a backstory. I wonder if we'll learn, because they did show that shot and it looks like him with a young Gamora in the trailer, and whether we'll learn some more about his motivations. I think also they probably have learned. Why do you think they chose to use that name, Gamora? Sodom and Gomorrah? I think it's probably kind of a twist on that. Yeah, it's a different spelling, but just general destruction, basically. Destruction and bad stuff. And they couldn't use Sodom because obviously sodomy. Why not? Because of the sodomites. Because that name has already been used for other stuff. Well, it's illegal in some states. It is. It's true. It is actually though. Yeah. And they define all sorts of weird stuff as it as well. It's not even the straight up. But anyway, not dwelling on that. I think they probably also will have learned, even in post-production, they've been able to adapt to how much Steppenwolf was a failure in the Justice League one. Like, they went for a full CGI villain, and he's not convincing, and he's not credible, and he's not really threatening. He's sort of a hot mess. So I was very excited when they showed Steppenwolf in Batman vs Superman, because it seemed like this is going to be an amazing sort of antagonist to what's going on. But they just completely CGI'd him, and it was unrelatable. It's just not good. You can't even like look at both his eyes at the same time. They're just wandering all over the place. It's not good. It was really disappointing. That was, I think, the most disappointing part of that film. I have maybe a little thing to suggest, but I don't know where the cutoff point would be and where the starting point would be. A Marvel. How would you even put that into a thon? A Marvel-thon. A Marvel-thon? Yes. Leading up to the Avengers. Heck yeah. But which would you start at? That's a difficult one. Because if it's the Avengers, then you would have to start maybe Iron Man. Yeah. Well, we should do it chronologically, I guess. Like whatever came out first. Yeah. Which I guess would be Iron Man. Iron Man, yeah. Yeah. And then we'd have to sort of weave it in, because I think we'd be doing like Iron Man, Avengers, Iron Man 2. And then we'd have to do Captain America, obviously. Yeah. He's looking completely badass in these new ones. He's gotten just more and more into. I'd always written him off as basically a boring character because I never like straight up good guys. His evolution in the comics is like that, though. I think the more he sees of the world, the more he becomes sort of slightly of a darker, which makes sense. Becomes slightly more of a darker and troubled type character. Yeah. And this is obviously going to show that because he left, obviously. What's the organization? S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D., yeah. And he's rogue almost in a sense. Yeah. And he has Bucky who he's helping. Yeah. Who is not exactly a calming influence, even though they, go way back. In the comics, he's the one that takes over the Captain America mantle. Yeah. So okay, cool. Obviously, Chris
Evans?
Chris Evans, yeah.
Yeah.
Not the one from the UK, not the ginger one.
No, that's very confusing.
Not the one that was temporarily on Top Gear. The one that was with, not Billy
Piper.
Billy
Which
Elliot.
I never knew. I thought that was like, I thought you were
a joke.
Joking, but no.
And he has said that this will be his last movie as Captain America.
Really?
Yep.
All right.
So there's all the expectations that Bucky, who is the Winter Soldier, will take over the mantle, which will be cool.
Yeah, that's cool. He's good as well. People like him, and yeah.
Tony Stark is at the end of his tenancy as well as Iron Man.
Like contractually, or just sort of
in the story.
Okay, cool.
Well,
that makes sense as well, because he's got to sort of shit out, like. And
they have to like hand the mantle down as well. There is a good storyline in one of the comics. I think it's a black girl or a Hispanic girl.
Yeah.
And she takes on the sort of the Iron Man, and that's the one that people want to see, is her taking on this.
Nice.
And obviously, the thing I'm so psyched to see.
Yeah.
Is the Iron Spider.
Yes. Yeah.
Like the new Spider-Man outfit that's going to be in this movie as
well. They're actually in the credits, at least, referring to him as Spider-Man / Iron Spider, which is interesting. It's got a life of its own. So.
I've loved what they've done with the new Spider-Man movie, because they've taken away all the sort of, we know what his origin story is. We know where he's come from, the multiple attempts. I think that was obviously probably that was the downfall of the previous Spider-Man movies, was because there was no greater evolution in story arc for him. It was only within his own universe that
there was nowhere for him to go.
But this one ties into the Avengers, which is ultimately where everyone wanted Spider-Man to go, because that's what's in the comics. Yeah. But with Tobey Maguire and what's the ginger dude?
Andrew Garfield.
There was nowhere for them to go.
No.
Because the Avengers wasn't around at that point.
I think this ties into one of my kind of hobby horses in films. To me, a really satisfying film or film franchise has like a reasonable scale in terms of, if you're dealing with like violence or peril or whatever, if something is hard or catastrophic or causes harm or whatever, there has to be some sort of equilibrium across the scale for that. It's like in movies when you can kill some people and you can't kill other people. That always annoys me. And the same thing with in films, if something is hard for the hero but he can do something else, but it seems to be like an escalation, it doesn't make sense, it's not grounded in his character developing. And that was the problem they ran into with the other Spider-Man films, other than having a teenager played by like 28-year-olds, which certainly contributes to this as well, actually. But that you'd be dealing with somebody who you're being told is a teenage kid and is like psychologically and physically like growing, and then they'd be sort of tasked with these insane things, and they wouldn't, there'd be a sort of lip service to it being like a psychological toll or to it being difficult, but it didn't feel real. And you'd have them basically seeming to kill people, and it just doesn't seem to tie into a sort of a hierarchy of scale, basically. Whereas to me, with the most recent Spider-Man, and hopefully now expanding into like his role, and we'll see in this film, basically, that'll see whether they've sort of got this or not, that his struggles to me all fit the same scale. Like things escalate, of course, because you need that story, but it's not like things become easier as he doesn't have an easier time with his challenges as his challenges become harder. Like that wouldn't make sense. It just all kind of fits in quite nicely, and that's what helps you suspend your disbelief. A
lot of the times in the previous Spider-Mans, the moral quandary was always when he was Peter Parker. When he became Spider-Man, and he was like this sort of infallible superhero. Obviously. But
and everything was fine.
The Peter Parker and the Spider-Man in the new one is sort of, that blurs more better, and it's obviously there's a lot of things that are new to him as a human being and as a teenager and as someone who can do loads of great things. And it all fits together quite sort of symmetrically and believably for me once you
suspend your disbelief, and it just makes it. Whereas in like, I forget which of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man film it is. Spider-Man film.
The Spider-Mans.
The Spider-Mans. But he has
that would be
like
a brilliant band.
Yes, the Spider-Mans. He has like a literally like knockdown drag out fight with the Green Goblin.
Right.
And it's an adult beating up a teenager, basically. Yeah. But there's no, and I think they're trying to show that it's like extreme, like it's extreme circumstances, but it just comes across as phony and inappropriate. Yeah. Like, I don't mean inappropriate like thematically, but I mean like within the rest of his struggles in the film. It's like you're suddenly in an adult world, and that's not where that film belongs. No. Whereas without being cute in the most recent one, I think they keep it really grounded in him being a teenage character, and that his struggles are... And
when he's up against someone who is an adult, it feels like that.
Yeah, as opposed to it just being him randomly upgraded to being able to fight a grown-up. Yeah. It's just a lot better that way.
Hopefully it should be good.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited. Yeah.
Did you see the trailer for the new Westworld?
No, I saw that you posted it, but I haven't watched it yet. Is it good?
So good.
When's it coming out?
I'm not sure actually, but yeah, it looks like it's going to be brilliant. My only hope is that they go into the samurai world.
Yeah, I hope so too. I hope they weren't just kind of teasing us with that.
It seems like that would be how they get longevity out of the series, as opposed to keeping it in the Westworld, I guess. But yeah, hopefully that happens.
I'm excited. Yeah, I really loved the first season. I'm almost like scared for it to start again because it's so dark. Like it's really
Where's
grim.
It gonna go?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like we've already pushed around all these borders, and I don't know where it can go to. Like if because it felt to me like they were sort of heading to a Borderlands, like literally, but sort of thematically as well.
In the Westworld, or,
but like also in terms of the themes of the show, like getting closer and closer to like what does it mean to be human and all of that, while they're moving out of the center of the space they're in geographically. So I don't know where you go, like if you're just in limbo after that or what happens. So I'm excited. Really good actors in that show. I love it.
Yeah, of course. Like
such a good cast. Oh my God.
Definitely. It's going to bring that up, and I think it's going to be Yeah.
I want to see the Thandie Newton character as a samurai. That would be awesome.
Anyway, on that note, I think we're done.
All right.
That's another one in the bag.
Right. And we're off to pizza. Pizza.
Yeah, we're going to get some Dominos.
Yep. Excited.
I can't wait.
Yep.
Anyway, where can people catch you on social media?
So on Instagram, should they so desire. I'm Laura_Z_Hope on Instagram, and I have mainly art and wine on there. Yeah. With a no H, but sometimes with an H in the wine, not the art. And that's my only sort of real social media presence. I have a website, laurahopeartist.com. Yep. I'm on Facebook as Laura Hope, but I don't do anything professional there.
No. Completely
unprofessional. Such a shambles. Toddler.
And you can find me anywhere on the internet with IAMKayPee, and that's IAMKAYPEE. Peace.
Arr.